Good morning, everybody. Before starting, I want to remind you that we have the interpretation in English, Italian, and French, so you can use your earphones when it's needed. So thank you all. Regia, sigla.
Ma io devo parlare in inglese?
Come vuoi. Bene, buongiorno a tutti.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming so numerous to this meeting. Before going to the topic, I would like to underline that this is a very important day for Italy. On November the 12th in 2003, an Italian military group was attacked in Syria. 28 people have lost their lives. 18 Italians, members of the military Italian army. This was the most severe attack to our military forces in a peace period. They have lost their lives for peace, and because of this, please let's dedicate 1 minute for them.
Grazie. Bene, un ringraziamento a tutti. Inizio con il ringraziamento.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the President of the European Parliament, Ms. Mattei. Thank you, President, for being here today. And let's give a round of applause to her, to our President. Of course, I would like also to greet all the MEPs, colleagues that are attending today, our distinguished guests that are attending, and also the ones that will join us remotely. I also would like to greet the African representatives that are attending today, in particular the ambassadors that I will greet individually at a later stage. And I would like to start from the title of our event, Mattei Plan for Africa and Global Gateway, a new model for these relationships. And first of all, we would like to highlight a fantastic vision that has been consolidated at the beginning of the Meloni government with a new vision, with a new perspective of the geopolitical strategic position of our own nation. I would like to put this in relationship with another plan the European Union has launched recently, that is the so-called Global Gateway. The synergy between the two projects is being consolidated more and more. And in recent months, in June in Rome, a major conference has been organized, chaired by Mrs. Meloni with President von der Leyen. Then another meeting has taken place to go through the developments of this gateway. So we would like to work on this within this European Parliament to consolidate this partnership and relationship that we have launched, that Meloni has launched in the framework of the Global Gateway initiative. So today, the fact that our president is attending is significant. We also have the two members of the commission that are coming. So two commissioners are coming, and also the African institutions representatives are present because in full synergy with our government. So the whole Italian stakeholders at the highest levels are also attending, with big enterprises and stakeholders that are attending today. Important also public and private stakeholders that joined the Mattei plan, as well as also stakeholders of the financial context, as well as also the NGO and corporations. The presence of the African stakeholders involved today, 14 African countries, with also the African Union. I would like to greet the ambassador, which will take the floor later. This Mattei plan starts from a basic point, that is because Europe has, and the Western world in general, has undermined Africa. After this, because of this geopolitical void has been created and other stakeholders have joined that continent which is strategic and key for many reasons, for security, for safety, for international stability, for the provision of raw materials, for also environmental stability, as well as also the management of a migrant structure, and not a chaotic structure, a chaotic situation like the one the European Union is facing. Of course. So because of this plan and the synergy with the Global Gateway are key to reaffirm not only the Italian but also the European presence within the African continent. But this should be based on a new approach. So it's finished with the previous approach in Africa. What we have to deal with today is a peer-to-peer approach on a mutual relationship and a mutual respect of each peoples, and with the creation of mutual opportunities for both partners, for Italians, for Europeans, and of course for Africans of the African countries involved. This is the starting point. This is the starting point of the Mattei plan. We want to work on this with all the stakeholders. I would like also to thank the non-Italian MEPs that will attend the final roundtable in order to enlarge and make more and more a shared project. So I would like now to give the floor to the President for her input. Thank you. You speak quickly. Yeah, and interpreters also confirm this. Okay, fine. Thank you, dear Carlo, dear Antonella, dear colleagues, MEPs, dear distinguished guests, friends. It's a really real pleasure to be here today. I fully share the full energy that is going with this new chapter of this new partnership between Europe and Africa. Last year, I was attending the launch of the Mattei plan in the fantastic frame of the Italian Senate, and I had straightforward the feeling that is really a turning point to build up a authentic and true relationship, not just with the vague promises, but on mutual respect. And this is the spirit underlying the Mattei plan. I will speak in English.
We need to speak with Africa. Sappiamo quanto.
And we know that it's difficult to, overcome the past. But it's possible, and it's worth to do this if we do that peer-to-peer as real partners. Enrico Mattei had understood this truth before many others. And it had become the forerunner of a very simple but disruptive idea, the true cooperation based on mutual comprehension, mutual understanding, and shared growth. This is the message that the Mattei plan is conveying of a conscious Europe that has decided to cooperate with its neighbors. Africa has nowadays an extraordinary potential. It is it is the continent which is the most rapidly growing. It is a young continent, a dynamic and creative continent. Almost 60% of its population is less than 25 years old, with an economic potential which is just great in the technology, in the culture and sustainability fields, with new markets for agriculture, energy, building, services, as well as also digital platforms. So all this is being deployed in opportunities for the youngest African entrepreneurs, but also for the European and Italian businesses that are ready to invest, innovate, and grow. Well, just look at, what happens is around us. Most of the companies that are attending today are the, evidence that this partnership is already becoming a reality, is already delivering tangible outputs. We already see this on spot, from agriculture, smart agriculture, to artificial intelligence spots, from biofuels to telemedicine. The Mattei plan is transforming everything, creating jobs, new markets, and as well as also real growth opportunities on both sides of the Mediterranean Sea. In this frame, the European Parliament plays a key role. So I think that this meeting today is very timely, and it's the right place and the right time. So thank you, Carlo, for putting this all together, because through our networks, diplomatic networks, and regular exchanges with the African parliaments, with the manufacturing stakeholders, with the financial institutions, we do contribute to the support and strengthen also all this. Just to put an example, in a few days, a group of European MEPs will meet the members of the Pan-African members of the parliament in order to prepare the meeting that will be held in Angola at the end of the month, of this month. At the same time, the European Union is making many funds available, which will go together to the Italian initiatives. Our impact by doing so can be even more stronger. Of course, we cannot say that there is no challenge. Of course, I'm talking about immigration. Africa has been considered very often and too much and too long, I would say, only in these terms, in terms of migration flows, whereas it must be considered as a partner for the Mediterranean growth, because if Africa grows, then of course its population becomes more and more aware that the population will stay there, will not leave Africa. So of course also the regulations need to be adapted in order to make this migration better managed. And I'm thinking of the list of safe countries, the revision of safe third country project, and many others. Europe must act now. So I'm thinking also of rail lanes and infrastructures. For example, so someone has started to invest, and that started many years ago. So if you want, Europe remains a credible partner and relevant partner. At the same time, we need also to be present, but with a different approach based on a long perspective vision. For this, I would like to thank the President, Mrs. Meloni, because she has shown that this elan can start from the south in Europe. We already have the tools to do that. In Europe, we already have the tools to do that. We have the political willingness and also the businesses and enterprises that are ready to participate. If there is one thing that I've learned in my job, in my role, is that if you're not frank, you cannot go on. So we need to be honest. We need to be frank on our achievements. We need to be sincere while talking about our limits, and we need to be lucid to recognize that good intentions on their own are not enough. So good luck to all of us. Thank you, Carlo. Thank you, Antonello. Thank you, Nicola, for being here. I think that now it's time to make all this concrete, to make our ambitions lead to concrete achievement. Of course, we have been working on this for a long time, I could say. And I think that all the colleagues from other countries being here today, all the ones that are following also, let's hope that they can feel part of this initiative. So once more, thank you very much to all of each of you, and have a nice meeting.
Grazie, Presidente.
Thank you, Ms. President, for this input, which is exactly the spirit which is with us today. You have mentioned President Meloni, who is present with her video. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to greet very warmly President Metsola. Thank you very much for your cooperation and friendship. Commissioner Sikela and, the two commissioners, I would like to thank them to be there. I also would like to thank Caro Fidanza, as well as also all the political parties, including Mr. Procaccini, to promote this high-level conference dedicated to an issue that is particularly close to my heart and to the Italian government. I would like also to greet all the African associations, Italian system, private, all Italian stakeholders that are attending today. Their participation confirms that the Mattei plan is not only an Italian initiative, but is now a European and international strategy that looks to the future and is gaining increasing support. Today, the Mattei plan is no longer just an idea, but a reality that is producing concrete results. I would like to mention three figures in particular: the direct involvement of 14 African nations, over 1 billion euros in resources already devoted to the African continent, and the synergy with the Global Gateway, which is worth more than 1.2 million euros. This cooperation is currently concentrated on four major strategic initiatives: the development of the Lobito infrastructure corridor, so linking Angola, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Zambia, the development of coffee production chains in several African nations, the extension to the Blue Raman digital, the maritime backbone that will connect India through the Middle East and Mediterranean, the AI hub for sustainable development in Rome, which will involve hundreds of African startups in applying artificial intelligence of the various sectors of the plan. We are continuing this work because we think that investing in Africa's future means investing in Europe's own future. We are doing so through a method that has become a benchmark at European level, as shown by the presentation a few weeks ago in Brussels of the Gateway Hub, a permanent partner that will coordinate European projects and investments in Africa. The spirit that guides our action is inspired by Enrico Mattei, a great Italian visionary who, with his pragmatic patriotism, has served the national interest by building bridges and cooperation with other peoples. The summit between the European Union and the African Union, which will take place in Angola in the coming weeks, will be an opportunity to further develop this vision and synchronize strategic programs between the two continents. Italy will continue to be a bridge between Europe and Africa, offering the expertise and its companies, the strength of its institutions, and its great tradition of a dialogue, because the future of Europe depends on a more stable, secure, and prosperous Africa. And the future of Africa depends on a Europe that is capable of listening, investing, and building together with humility and respect for others. This is a historical challenge in which I'm sure the European Parliament will play a leading role. So therefore, thank you all for your contribution and best wishes for your work. Thank you, Mrs. Melona, President Belloni. So in the meanwhile, I've seen Mr. Procaccini coming, as well as also Vice President Sperna. They will also introduce themselves at the end, introduce their input at the end of the morning session. So also the member of the commission has arrived. Well, we have two commissioners today. Mr. Sikela is attending remotely. So first of all, we listen to this video.
being able to join you in person for this important event. But I think you will forgive me, because while you are launching your discussions on how to strengthen the synergies between the Mattei Plan and the Global Gateway, I am in the field, in Lusaka, representing the European Union at the EU-Zambia Lobito Business Forum. This engagement reflects the very same ambition we share through the Mattei Plan to deepen Europe's partnership with Africa through concrete and strategic investments. The Lobito corridor perfectly captures this vision, as Italy knows well due to its own role in it. It is more than a railway. It is a driver of transformation. It strengthens Europe's economic security while creating jobs and boosting local businesses in Zambia, Angola, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. In practice, it means modernizing 1,300 kilometers of railway, improving trade routes, and connecting the region's mineral wealth with global markets, but also investing in vocational training, SME participation, technical assistance, and the creation of local value chains. The goal is clear: to ensure that jobs, skills, and opportunities grow locally, turning transport corridors into real engines of development. This is the Mattei method, but it is also Global Gateway, and together, this is the European way, combining investment in infrastructure with investment in people. The result is a mutually beneficial partnership with Africa, one that brings sustainable development, local opportunities, and greater peace, stability, and economic security. Because cooperation with Africa is not about aid. It is a strategic investment in our shared future. By 2050, Africa's population will double. 60 million young people will enter the job market in the next 5 years. If they can match their energy and ambitions with education and decent work, it will be an economic boom. If not, it will become a serious challenge for all of us. That is what I am focusing on here in Zambia, and I hope you will do the same at your event. I look forward to comparing our notes when I return, because our partnership with Africa truly has great potential. But to unlock it, we must act fast, effectively, and strategically. And above all, we must act together.
Bene, grazie al commissario.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You see that the member of the Commission Seka is in Africa, and he has expressed himself very concretely of the Lobito corridor, which is one of the most important strategic concrete project who is becoming reality. Also, I would like now, first of all, to invite here someone. We really wanted him to be here. To have it here, the president of the Enrico Mattei Foundation, who is also member of the Mattei's family, is an extraordinary person, a great Italian, a great patriot, who has been key in the sense that in this project, and by the way, also the president of the Italian fuels as a company Eni, which is a key player for our economy, also within the Mattei Plan, has launched a really peer-to-peer approach, which is very respectful of the African continent. And of course, to Mattei, this plan is dedicated. Mr. Mattei, the floor is yours, please. Thank you, MEP Fidanza, dear authorities, dear MEPs, dear friends, everyone. But first of all, dearest members of the European Parliament and of the African countries. For me today, I have really to say it's a great honor. This is a symbolic place to be. And I'm here not only to highlight the interest of this plan and the Global Gateway, but to also underline the spirit underlying. This plan is inspired to Enrico Mattei, which was used not to only to be a businessman, but also someone who has built bridges, who was able to realize what he was dreaming of and to put it in practice, to make it become concrete. Mattei has given to Italy a strong message, the strength of a nation which is not to be measured because it's self-sufficient, but because it's able to build with dignity, respect, and mutual collaboration relationships, true relationships. We don't have to think of anything but a shared path. If we remain close, we are threatened. On the contrary, if we are open, we can build alliances that can be synonym of peace and stability. In the 50s, Mattei understood that energy could become the driver of a new economy with gas and oil. He has created industrial development, jobs, and also social equity. Today, the same rationale needs to be conceived in a wider frame. So you really have to understand what are the development drivers wherever they are, and to use them concretely. For example, agriculture is one of these drivers. This sector is able to connect land to science, production to health, sustainability to industry, from agriculture. In the agriculture, new active elements can be given to pharmaceutical industry, food, innovative materials. So it's really an intertwined operation of many elements to create shared development. The success, once more, depends on the capacity of building an integrated system where finance and technology support growth and make it sustainable. Because once you have opportunities for the industry, economy is stimulated, and when the economy grows, you need infrastructures, you need financial nets and sustainable stakeholders. In this virtuous circle linking production to innovation and knowledge, you recognize the Mattei's approach to think in terms of a whole, not of isolated stakeholders, but togetherness. This is the message of Mattei's approach. So this is shared intelligence, a common vision, mutual trust. Today, in the dialogue between Europe and Africa, this is science. This shows the direction to go. Together, we need to find new balances that can guarantee food safety and security and peace. This is a recipe for peace. This is how you can build your peace and future. To conclude, of course, I'm a member of Mattei's family, so I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to everything that he has taught. So that means that dignity is not a gift, but a right. The real wealth springs from the future shared.
Al dottor Roldo Curzi Mattei per la sua testimonianza.
Thank you, Mr. Mattei, for your speech. Now we have with us Dubravka Cvik, European Commissioner for the Mediterranean. Thank you.
Come sapete, è stato
As you know, a little while ago, the new plan for the Mediterranean has been presented. Mrs. Cvik presented it to the European Parliament a few weeks ago. it is very important to keep in mind the synergy also with this initiative by the European Union, which is directly linked with the Mattei plan. We give the floor to Commissioner Suica. Thank you.
Carlo Fidanza, dear Nicola Procaccini, honorable members, distinguished guests, thank you so much for inviting me here. This is a very good opportunity to address you today. I heard that you heard a lot from your Prime Minister Meloni, also from Speaker of the Parliament Metsola, but let me try to explain a little bit more about the Pact for the Mediterranean. So for me and for us, sorry for being late because there is a college meeting this morning, so I couldn't leave the college. It was a culture compass on the agenda, which is also very important for the Mediterranean. So for me, it's really a great pleasure to discuss the vision of strengthening the partnership between the European Union and Africa, and in particular with our Mediterranean neighbors. With the new Pact for the Mediterranean, which was adopted exactly a month ago, we are scaling up our cooperation with the countries in the Middle East and North Africa. As you know, we want to achieve sustainable socio-economic development together, and this will help European companies and people alike. There is a joint determination on both sides of the Mediterranean that the pact needs to have tangible benefits, and for everyone around the Mediterranean. You know that our pact builds on Global Gateway and other initiatives of the European Union. The focus is on energy, on digital and transport connectivity, and on human capital. The same pillars Italy's Mattei's plan is based on. So this is as a role model for our pact for the Mediterranean. Italy's Mattei plan for Africa, Global Gateway, and the Pact for the Mediterranean share the same DNA. They are built on partnership, sustainability, and win-win opportunities. They aim to foster prosperity, stability, first by investing in people, such as education and skills, and sustainable infrastructure, such as energy, water resilience, and digital or transport connectivity. So we are talking about complementarity engines driving the same ambitions. And I'm also glad that Prime Minister Meloni and Commission President von der Leyen reaffirmed this aligned partnership in June this year. The message was clear. We both aim to create quality jobs and sustainable development across the Mediterranean and Africa. With the Pact for the Mediterranean, we are going to build our strong track record of Global Gateway in southern Mediterranean. Since 2021, we have rolled out more than €6 billion of European Union support. What is important is that we are leveraging private investments at a large scale. And if we count together investments the Union has supported and those backed by the Member States, the European Investment Bank and European EBRD, we will arrive at the total of the €77 billion of mobilised investments by the end of last year. These are just figures. We are delivering real change. Projects are being implemented, financing is flowing, momentum is building, and most importantly, people's lives are being improved. Let me briefly mention two, as I'm sure you know, two Global Gateway flagship projects in the Mediterranean. The one which was mentioned, I hope, the Medusa submarine cable system, which connects both shores of Mediterranean. It not only enhances digital connectivity, but empowers universities, entrepreneurs, and young innovators with access to global markets. Announced 2 years ago at the Global Gateway Forum, the implementation of Medusa has made big progress. The cable, as you know, has landed in Marseille, and we are extending the connection to Jordan and potentially to Lebanon. We are opening new opportunities for regional entrepreneurship and innovation. In Jordan, we are tackling the country's acute water supply. So there is another flagship project, the Aqaba Amman water desalination project. It will take water from the Red Sea, desalinate it, and channel it 450 kilometers north to the capital Amman and its surroundings. And this is only where our new initiative, so-called TMED, comes in, the Trans-Mediterranean Renewable Energy and Clean Tech Initiative. It will boost improvements at scale in solar, in wind and green hydrogen, and also in clean technologies across North Africa and the Middle East. So there will be a triple win. First, faster decarbonization and more energy security. Just to explain, all of you know, if we use the standards in Italy, in France, in Spain and Greece, and if the same standards are not used in North Africa, then there won't be decarbonization. We cannot save our Mediterranean. And this is very important that we apply same standards also there. This is about decarbonization, first win. Then we, of course, increase competitiveness on all shores of so-called Mare Nostrum, which means, what are we doing? We are inviting, and this is also today maybe the momentum, to invite European companies to invest in that part of the world. So it's about competitiveness for both them and us. And of course, quality jobs are being opened, inclusive socioeconomic development. Why I'm mentioning this? Because you know the demographic picture is a little bit different in that part of the world than our part of the world, knowing that in Italy we are at lowest ever historic 1.1 births. And at that part of the world is much higher, so we have to put this somehow in balance. I'm also in charge of demography, so it's very important to connect this because our internal European demography depends on the demography of that part of the world. So this is why I'm speaking about quality jobs. We have to find jobs for those young people to stay there. Of course, we want to invest in skills and everything. If we need some talent here in Europe, then we have talent partnerships and we have legal pathways how to bring these people to Europe, but not illegal, not irregular. And this is something which I want to highlight once again. We want to strictly differentiate between legal and illegal, and this is something where some politicians don't want to do it and they create chaos on this. So just to say, so win, win, win. Three. It's not double win, but triple win. New jobs, competitiveness and decarbonization. Of course, here again the synergies with Mattei plan are clear. The priorities are energy transition, vocational training, partnerships with private sector, and of course they see in clean energy as the opportunity. The Mattei plan is perfectly aligned with what we want to achieve with our pact. And it is not one-way approach. We are doing it together with Mediterranean partners in partnership of equals. So it will be mutually beneficial, just to make you aware. So I spent almost a year in designing this pact because we were consulted everyone, governments, think tanks, academia, whoever was interested in this was consulted. So this time we changed the approach. It was bottom-up approach, and this is much better because no one likes to be preached or mentored from above, which was not always the case in our politics. So we want the young people we educate, the industries we help develop, and technologies we boost. All of this economic value added is being created in the region, and I have to mention, because I was speaking about demography, about young generation and the right to stay. It's not only right to stay here in Europe, but it's also right to stay there. So you remember that Enrico Letta had a report on this, and this was like a fifth freedom in his report, right of movement, of capital, of whatever, and then freedom of movement, you know these four freedoms of Europe, but one freedom is freedom to stay. How can they stay? If we create environment for young people to stay, be it in Africa, be it here in Europe. So I believe it's a very important element for all of us and everywhere in the European Union. So we need to take care of rural areas. Now you have Commissioner, my colleague who sits next to me, and he is now in the college, who is Raffaello Fitto, who is dealing with this. This is a very important part, so rural areas. And we won't forget rural areas even in our new MFF, as you are following the situation. So rural areas must be home to young people, to families, to farmers, and to small and medium enterprises, knowing that 9 in 10 small and medium, that 9 in 10 enterprises in that part of the region are small and medium enterprises, which means that we have to take care about them. Quality of life in rural areas does play a considerable role, and of course, and they want to live a dignified life, and this is something we are helping. So social fabric is important, territorial cohesion is important. We cannot accept that regions suffer from depopulation over a longer term, so we can look at it from a competitiveness point of view, and this is opportunity for quality jobs, and it will be easier to attract talents. How? If we or they have affordable housing. This is something which is very important. And you know that Commission now has an extra commissioner who is in charge of housing. By the end of the year, in December, we will adopt a strategy for affordable housing at the college. So you have to have housing, you have to have appealing outdoor leisure activities, and we need a quality of transport, digital connectivity, education, medical and childcare infrastructure. When I say digital connectivity, just to understand, today nobody asks you where you are. Everybody asks you how well you are connected. And this is why Medusa comes into question, and it's very, very important. Let me mention one element regarding the Pact for the Mediterranean in relation to education. Since the topic new opportunities regarding education is part of your discussion later this afternoon, several sources have been spreading disinformation on the objectives of the Pact of the Mediterranean. This is the place at the moment to elaborate this, to clarify this. False information is circulating, arguing that the Pact would become a channel to facilitate migration from our southern neighborhood. This simple is not true, and this is to say here. This is what we are planning to do. We want to invest in exchanges among students and universities, staff, including researchers. You know that we are also planning to establish Mediterranean University, including a strong role for European universities, from Milan to Naples to Rome, but also in Marseille, also in Beirut, also in Alexandria, also in Fez. So we want to connect young people, but when we speak about this will of course benefit economies in the European Union in southern neighborhood, but it will not facilitate migration from the south. This is why I mentioned at the beginning legal and illegal. You know that new regulation, return directive is coming, and that new pact for asylum and migration will be enacted in June this year. So this is something which is very important. So it's about solidarity and responsibility. You know, it's about Council will decide on it. So it is very important that one of the very important pillars of the Pact for the Mediterranean is about security and migration management. So we are strengthening our cooperation on migration with our southern partners, including on effective returns and readmission. By now, we were not the best in this. Only 1 in 5 was being returned, which was not very efficient from our side. Now, with this return directive, we hope that we will manage to do it. So it is crucial that all members also of this House and your visitors, your guests, are well informed about this. So it would be regrettable if the spreading of misinformation about the real objective of the facts were to continue. Just to understand, because I heard there was a lot of talk about Erasmus+. Erasmus+ means that they come and go. They stay here for 6 months, 5 months, or vice versa, and they go. We don't want to, it's not about creating, we don't want to create brain drain. Also there. It won't be correct. But if we need some talent, we will use this talent, because due to our lack of labor force in the labor market here in Europe, we need people. We have to admit this. Unfortunately, this is the case. Or we have to increase suddenly birth rates. But if we increase birth rates, these young people, for example, may I tell you one example? If each and every European woman will in next 5 years have have 5 kids. I don't know if it's biologically possible, but in 5 years, 5 kids. These kids, these youngsters, will be capable of entering the labor market in 20 to 25 years. By that time, China, India, our allies in the States, they are booming or boosting their economies, and we are lagging behind. So we cannot rely on that. So what we are doing, we are using robotics, we are using artificial intelligence, but it cannot always replace humans. So we need humans. This is something which we have to admit. But it is very important not to create chaos and not to do it to say that we are inviting people without any criteria and so on. This is not the case. So we have to be very clear on this. Sorry. And to conclude, so at the end of the day, the success of the Global Gateway, the Mattei Plan, the Pact for the Mediterranean depends on our ability to deliver concrete projects and tangible results. And this is my top priority. And that one is also my new DG MENA. Just to understand, if you need anything on that part of the world, there is the first entry point for this is DG MENA, new Directorate General, which is being established now. And this is also new portfolio because President von der Leyen realized that people in that part of the world felt somehow a little bit not abandoned, but maybe left behind because our focus, as all of you know, was on Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, Western Balkans. Of course, we haven't forgotten that part, but now we also have commissioner and we have a portfolio and we have also DG, which is dealing with this. So whatever you need, DG MENA is at your disposal. Together with our partners in southern neighborhood, we will continue to work closely with Italy, of course, with all member states, with this House, and with our financial institutions. Just to mention, when we signed this agreement with Tunisia, you remember, we were heavily criticized, you know, as the European Commission. But since we did it, we have, in 2024, 38% less of illegal migrants coming to Europe. And now, by this moment in 2025, we have figures plus 20%, which means more than 58% people came less to Europe due to this agreement with Tunisia. But the agreement is not only about migration. The agreement is also about development, about economy, about renewable energy, about education, and migration is always part of these pacts. We have signed comprehensive partnership agreement with Egypt and with Jordan. Now we are deepening our strategic partnership agreement with Morocco, which is very important, and we offered to sign the agreement with Lebanon. Unfortunately, they are not at that stage because they have problems with IMF and so on and so on. What we will do, I haven't mentioned Gulf countries. Gulf countries are also part of my portfolio, although they are not Mediterranean geographically. But we are now heading towards starting negotiations bilaterally with each of these 6 Gulf countries. So we will have agreements with them because we badly need them for our security, for our prosperity, and, Middle East situation and so on. So I don't want to broaden this discussion, just to make you aware of what we are doing here. So we want to ensure that our joint engagement translates into concrete opportunities for people and for businesses. I want to thank you very much for your dedication, for your leadership, and I want to thank Italy as a country, but also you as members of European Parliament for being engaged in this and for common understanding. We are at your disposal. Whatever you need, I'm here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner, for your very important contribution, and thank you also for the clarifications that you gave about the Erasmus Plus issue that effectively occupied our discussions in the last days. So thank you for coming and for your contributions. Now, passo ora rapidamente al.
I give now the floor to the first of our group of panelists. I would like to thank President Sberna and Mr. Procaccini, whom we'll meet later, Mr. Mattei, and I would like to invite Vice MEP Alberico Cambino, Francesco De Pano, who will be the moderator This way we will get in depth in the Mattei plan. MEP, Vice President, AFET Committee, Alberico Cambino, I give you the floor. Thank you, Carlo. Distinguished guests, dear colleagues, it is an honor for me to introduce the work of this panel. But first of all, I would like to take the opportunity to thank those who have been dedicated to make sure that this meeting would take place here today. I'm thinking of our head of our delegation, Mr. Fidanza, Mr. Procaccini, who are so dedicated and from a political perspective, when I say that they have love for what they do, some might think I'm using the word love, but this is foreign politics. Why using the word love? I think that love is at the heart of the Mattei plan, as Mrs. Meloni indicated. Africa is at the very heart of major changes at international level. It's a young and dynamic continent full of human resources, but it's also pressured at many levels. This is not just a challenge for Europe. It is a huge possibility of partnership. But this needs a new paradigm, a new cooperation where there is no predatory approach, which has to be based on equal dignity and mutual respect. The Mattei plan for Africa, promoted by Italian government and the Meloni government, is based on this vision. It is not a plan to just give help, but it's an operational plan. It recognizes the sovereignty of the African countries based on employment, cooperation, and building a future together. This requires social cooperation and industrial cooperation. This can be a reference point for Europe based on pragmatism, and mutual recognition, and results for all. As it has already been said by others before me, and the Lobito corridor is an excellent example. It is a strategic axe of the Mattei plan and the Global Gateway. It links the center of Africa with the Indian Ocean, where industry and infrastructures are involved. The local ones, of course. This shows how an infrastructure will not just be a material result, but can be the point of growth and economic integration. This is the Lobito corridor. In a few weeks in Angola, as President Metsola reminded us all, there will be a summit between the EU and Africa in order to relaunch this strategic cooperation where the Lobito corridor represents a true symbol of a common approach. And Mrs. Suica, who just took the floor, raised a point at the time, as I requested her to do. I said for Europe we would need many Mattei plans, not just this one, not only as a model for Africa, but also for other parts around the Mediterranean. This is an approach that we share. Europe has to use the Mattei plan as an example so that there is a EU-African cooperation, strategic cooperation. Therefore, there is a financial and economic part to keep in mind, and it's fundamental in order to do. But what we need is tangible results. We have to make sure that there is an inclusive approach so that the national and European stakeholders will provide what is needed to help the social society. We know that it is the case also with international financial institutions. These are the realities that with European and African entrepreneurs, together with academia, can help us make sure that projects can bring real results and promote trust. Italy is a bridge between the continents. We have to make sure that there is stability and safety for all. Italy is ready to do what its job, cooperating and promoting trust so that Europe can have a foreign policy looking at the future. As Enrico Mattei used to tell us, there can be no development without freedom. There is no freedom without economic independence. Having said that, I would like to, if Carlo allows me to do so, give the floor to the moderator, Francesco De Palo. Thank you all. And thank you to Mr. Gambino. Thank you for organizing this event, MEP Finanza and Procaccini. The new pact for the EU-Africa strategic cooperation, two words have been used. Pact, union, as the President of the European Parliament was telling us, and strategy. The first the first speech actually will be done by Giancarlo Carovini, who is the rapporteur to the Italian Chamber of Deputies for the Mattei plan. So he knows what is being done by the Italian Parliament. He's also part of the Foreign Affairs group, and he also is active within NATO. Therefore, I will give the floor to MEP Calovini. Each one of you has 5 minutes. Please, you have the floor. Thank you. I will try to be extremely swift. I would like to thank Finanza, Procaccini, and all the MEPs present here, and all the friends who are sitting here, friends from the African countries. I would like to be very fast. I would try to explain what the Mattei plan is. Quite often in the last few months, people have raised this question when I could present this as a rapporteur within the Italian Parliament. I would like to highlight that the Mattei plan is a political plan, but based on numbers also, which are very important in politics. Why were numbers mentioned? As we know in the past few presentations. Today we are here at the European Parliament. The European Parliament has 450 million inhabitants. If we think of the European continent, 750 inhabitants, thinking of the 50 EU countries. If we go on the other side of Mediterranean and we think of Africa, today the African continent has 1.5 billion inhabitants. And if we think of the numbers in 2050, and those who are involved in politics, 2050 is tomorrow, Africa will reach 2.5 billion inhabitants. So in other data, if we think about some countries, Nigeria, for instance, in 2050, there will be 450 million inhabitants, basically what we have today in Europe, the European countries. So looking at numbers also always allow me to highlight the merits that the Italian government has when it comes to the Mattei plan and its merits, because in order to have a plan like this, which is very ambitious, we need vision and political stability. When I think what happened in Italy in the last 10 years, I have to say that 2013 and 2018, in last legislations, we had 3 different governments. 2013-14, we had the first government with the President of Council, Letta. Then we had 30 months of another government with Renzi, and then another 14-15 months, more or less, with Gentiloni. What does that mean? That there's some political instability that, thank God, today Italy does not have anymore. When I think to the legislation 2018-2022, we always had 3 different governments. First, the one, Conte 1, for 14-15 months. Then we had Conte 2, which lasted 20-25 months with different parties involved. And then the Draghi, of course, somebody very distinguished, who has been mentioned a few times this morning. But we know that the Italian legislation stopped in 2022, which brought us to the new elections. After that, there was a major majority in Italy that we see is wanted by the Italians, more than at the very beginning. And this is very important data. This allows us to have a political vision that we haven't had for too long. And this is a political vision which has allowed us to see the birth of this Mattei plan, which brought us to the important summit in 2023. 46 out of 50 countries participated, 43 out of 50 African countries, represented by 25 prime ministers or presidents. And this shows how Africa looks at Europe, but especially to Italy, as a bridge between the two continents. Last but not least, we have to highlight how Italy, together with European partners and European institutions, has wanted to concentrate on important plans. Think of the agriculture. I'm looking at President Vecchioni. I was in Algeria recently, and I saw how Bonifica Peraresi has been able to do with its counterparts so that these projects can become a reality, which would be excellent for the Algerian inhabitants. And then in studying, and I've been to Mozambique, and I'm looking at the representative of the country where Italy is doing a lot for education. I could also think of health. I'm thinking about Morocco now, or energy, thinking of the Italian companies which are represented here today. Last but not least, the water infrastructures, which is very important. I will when I think of the Lobito corridor, which has been mentioned more than once this morning, it's an historical corridor created in 1900, beginning of 1900, by European countries that for internal wars in Zambia and Angola was destroyed, and only 3% survived, basically. And this is why it's important that Italy and Europe do work together with African countries, can relaunch competition, and me doing that also with important countries like the United States. They were disengaged, and they've been disengaged in Africa, but they want to participate into the Lobito corridor. So these are all new initiatives that can relaunch our cooperation, which can bear fruit in the next few years.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You have put the emphasis on this magic word, which is bridge, with the also U.S. Well, now we have next speaker. After 25 years of experience in investment banking, you have given the contribution to this important institution at a level of a bridge. Please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor to address you today at this high-level conference on the Mattei Plan for Africa and the Global Gateway. Allow me first to express my deep appreciation to Her Excellency Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, whose leadership and vision has given new momentum to the Mattei Plan, a plan that places Africa not as a recipient of aid, but as a key partner in growth and innovation. And as I listened to the video recording this morning from the Prime Minister, as well as the words reiterated by His Excellency Carlo Fidanza, what I liked about what was said was, this is a peer-to-peer approach. This is, based on mutual respect. And in addition, Mr. Kurzi Mattei talked about building bridges, which was the vision of Mr. Mattei as well. My gratitude also goes to the President of the European Parliament and the head of the Italian delegation in the European Parliament for this gracious invitation to speak today. To the European Commissioners and Ministers who are taking part in today's conference, and to all the distinguished speakers who are sharing their perspectives and experiences today. Africa stands at a pivotal juncture in the fragmented world order today, with the continent's vast natural resources, youthful population, which several of the speakers have mentioned, and the strategic location holding immense potential for shaping its own future and development, as well as influence in the course of global affairs. We at the African Development Bank are honored that Italy has agreed that the African Development Bank will be its leading strategic partner for implementing the plan. We also welcome the partnership with the Global Gateway because for us to really achieve impact and scale, partnership is going to be very important, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. The Mattei Plan marks a strategic shift once again from aid to co-partnership. The AFDB is also examining how we can actually leverage the Mattei Plan as a model for establishing partnerships in both bilateral and multilateral ways with a focus on prioritizing the private sector. Our partnership will deliver impactful development across Africa, expand access to energy, tackle climate change, support food security, boost health services, and expand skills and jobs for the youth. This will help create more economic opportunities in Africa and help stem drivers of migration across the Mediterranean, which has been also mentioned by several speakers. Allow me to elaborate on the partnership and the role of the AFDB under the Mattei Plan, which is also aligned with the African Development Bank's new 4 cardinal points. As most of you know, a new president started, on September 2nd this year, President Sidi Uta, and his vision is captured really in 4 cardinal points. 1, unlock capital at scale for Africa's development, and that's what we're doing here today. Reform and consolidate the new African financial architecture. Harness Africa's demographic dividend of youth and women, and once again, that's a key part of our discussion today. And 4th, to implement climate-resilient infrastructure and increase value addition in Africa, including with critical minerals, such as on the Lobito corridor. Under the Mattei Plan, we've created a multi-donor special fund with Italy, and it's been set up to co-finance on AFDB sovereign and sovereign guaranteed projects in the sectors that I've already heard mentioned, such as agribusiness, climate-aligned energy, transport, water, and industrialization to transform economies. This is a real shift from traditional aid to co-investment in strategic sectors that generate jobs, especially for youth. The Multi-Donor Trust Fund, with contributions from both Italy and the United Arab Emirates amounting to over 170 million today, is now operational. The first project, which was a resilient water project in Ethiopia, was approved just last month. We also welcome the support from Italy to Mission 300. And in this regard, we recently received a new contribution from the Italian Ministry of Environment and Energy Security, contributed to the Sustainable Energy Fund for Africa, which the African Development Bank manages, as a key M300 delivery vehicles. Other instruments under the plan developed with the African Development Bank include the Growth and Resilience Platform for Africa, which is a co-investment platform. Under this platform, Casa Depositi e Prestiti, CDP, and the African Development Bank intend to invest up to 400 million euro, that is, 200 million euros each from each institution, over 5 years in private equity funds to accelerate private sector development in Africa. The platform plans to mobilize at least an additional 350 million euro from other sources to bring the pool of investment capital in total to about 750 million euros. This is an open-ended platform, and other parties are expected to join in the following years. One of the main transformative joint projects under the Mattei Plan, as you have all heard, is the Lobito corridor. The African Development Bank, together with the United States government, the European Union under the Global Gateway, the Africa Finance Corporation, and the host governments of Zambia, Angola, and the Democratic Republic of Congo signed a memorandum of understanding as far back as 2023 to mobilize resources for the Lobito corridor project. This project is in advanced development. The African Development Bank expects to directly support the project with up to about $500 million of resources. But when you look at the entire corridor, And this entire corridor, in addition to evacuating value-added critical minerals to the west, the corridor's development will boost domestic and cross-border industrialization and trade along its route, creating opportunities to bring agricultural produce to industries and to markets. The corridor is designed with strong focus on ensuring metals and minerals beneficiation, which is what we've talked about in terms of the critical minerals, but as well agricultural value chains, telecoms, along the right of way, and renewable energy infrastructure development, especially for distribution to the Southern Africa power pool. In total, we would expect the investments that we provide as the bank to surpass $1 billion. The European Union has already committed €600 million to the development of the Lobito corridor, including $76.5 million in 3 new commitments with Angola. $250 million in new commitments were also signed by Italy and the Africa Finance Corporation for the Angola-Zambia Railway. A second transformative joint project under the Mattei plan is the G7 AI Hub for Sustainable Development, which was launched by Italy and the UNDP for promoting responsible AI globally and inclusive access to emerging technologies, and which the European Commission is joining its governing board. Ongoing cooperation is underway between EU AI factories and African partners, leveraging Europe's supercomputing power. I'm honored to personally serve on the executive steering group of the AI Hub. Italy, through the Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, has also pledged to contribute up to $45 million to the Alliance for Green Infrastructure in Africa, which is a transformative infrastructure project development fund.
Sorry, Mr. Quaynor, please, we must finish. 7 minutes. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
If you want to finish, thank you. Sorry.
Okay. I mean, let me just finish by saying that, what is critical today is really the concept of partnerships if we're going to really have impact with scale. So it's great to see the Mattei plan from Italy and also the EU Global Gateway coming together to really harness those synergies. And the African Development Bank is really proud to be part of that. In addition, one of the most effective vehicles for development in the 37 poorest countries in Africa has been the African Development Fund. This is another important vehicle for partnership, and we are going to really be going through our replenishment in December, and we're looking forward to really a strong signal, from Italy, through the Mattei plan as well. So let me just end by saying, through cooperation, investment, shared responsibility, and partnership, we look forward, from the African side to continue to partner with Italy and the Mattei plan, with CDP, and also with the EU Global Gateway. Thank you very much. I was quite excited, so maybe I spent more than my 7 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Quaynor, African Development Bank Vice President. Adesso è il momento del CEO di Cassa Depositi e Prestiti.
Okay, now I give the floor to the representative of the Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, who is a public stakeholder under the umbrella of the Italian Minister for Economy, and he uses savings to create jobs and employment. Since 2015, he promotes the Italian development. Mr. Scanapico, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for inviting me. Since 2015-16, CDP operates not only in Italy but also elsewhere by funding projects for sustainable development in emerging countries. These activities are relatively recent because we have been operating since 1875, but we have expanded very rapidly So in 2021, we invested 110 billion euros, but 1 billion we invested in 2024, 60% of which in Africa. This growth is also to be understood thanks to our development. We have 2 operational seats, one in Morocco, the other one in Egypt. In the next few weeks, we will be present also in Kenya and in Ivory Coast, because, of course, if you want to operate in Africa, you need also to be present in person. We are a strategic partner for Africa. Africa is a young continent with people of, less than 25 years of age, with the population growth by 4% each year, where you also have many resources, rare minerals, and also much land is not used yet. So, of course, great opportunities are possible. That is why CDP wants to play a key role also in the framework of the Mattei plan. With various investments with its own resources, as well as also public fundings that we manage, as we said. For example, the Fund for the Climate, that means 3 billion euros for investments in this field, but also the Fund for Cooperation and Development is to be used. With these resources, CDP has already signed 12 operations within the Mattei plan, which is worth approximately 1 billion euros. Many other operations are going to be undersigned in the next few weeks, and various purposes are to be mentioned. For example, the protection of environment, climate change, just to mention a few. We need, of course, further innovative tools, partnership. We have used this word very often today. Of course, these are the drivers we are also working on, in particular to widen the set of available resources and tools to support the Mattei plan, which is, I think, very important. And we are doing this with other relevant partners that are already operational on spot. And we want to mobilize, of course, more resources and to have a heavier impact over there. As Salomon was mentioning, of course, there is a stronger relationship with the African Development Bank. We have indeed launched a platform to share various opportunities up to $400 million together. So we have shared projects. Overall, 750 million euros can be used within that platform, and this is the sum which is expected. We're also very actively working with the European Commission and also other relevant institutions in the continent. This initiative is strategic, and its approach is very close to the Mattei's plan approach, with shared values and shared principles. I'm thinking of a model of sustainable development model based on quality and transparency, which is different than other initiatives that were previously taken in Africa, because our willingness is to build really mutual relationships, peer-to-peer relationships. This is really the feature of the Mattei's plan. Starting from these principles, CDP wants to bring forward consistently both the Mattei plan's objectives, as well as also the Global Gateways objectives, with the perspective of having a long-term impact. So we were talking about, just to put an example, the Lobito corridor. We also have invested money on this. So partnership, this is the key word. CDP can have a direct access to public resources and wants to use this also with its own resources in order to guarantee an efficient management of public resources. Don't forget that in Africa we have too many projects projects sometimes, but too many good projects. That means that you need a contribution and input of more stakeholders in order to, on one side, improve the capacity of funding these projects and also to consolidate the operational capacity of the various stakeholders to put money into it. The so-called Terra project, transforming the agricultural business and its related resilience. This is an important project, for example, which will which allows CDP and FAO to propose something more innovative. Once more, innovative tools and shared approach. This is really the winning combination. These are really the winning factors. Also, there is also a new network which puts together European resources and also all stakeholders' resources that can make the difference. We are at the end of this recent platform. That means also that Italy has a growing role in this partnership and in this approach. CDP is then a key actor to enforce the Mattei's planned investments. We're doing this today. We're doing this tomorrow, with a wider presence in Africa. And of course, this is very much linked to the Mattei plans and also to Global Gateways approach. We want to generate efficient and tangible impact that can make difference for Italy and for Europe. Thank you. Thank you very much to Mr. Scannapieco of the Cassa Depositi and Prestiti, which has clearly explained the role of the Cassa. Stefano Del Noce, representative in Italy for the Mediterranean, for the strategic dialogue and collaboration with the global development. Please tell us how your institution is intertwined with the Global Gateway. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Mr. Fidanza for organizing this event. I will speak in English.
So over the next decade, 1.2 billion young people will reach working age, mostly in Africa, but they'll only find 400 million jobs. This leaves 800 million young people without prospects, without the dignity of a job and hope for the future. And this is not a distant number. These concerns are directly because what happens in Africa will shape our future, our social cohesion, stability, and also migration. Jobs are definitely the most challenging challenge that we face today, not just as a source of income, but also as a source of dignity and peace. And this is really behind the spirit behind both the Global Gateway and the Mattei Plan. Italy has been at the forefront of this vision, creating a model of cooperation based on equal partnership and shared priorities. And today, the World Bank is really proud to be working with Italy to transform this vision into action. So last year, the G7 summit, the President Banga of the World Bank and Prime Minister Meloni signed a declaration of intent to strengthen collaboration in Africa under the Mattei Plan and IDA, which is our fund for the poorest countries. And since then, we have done a lot to shift from words to action. So it all starts with energy, which is the spark behind every job and every enterprise. 600 million people in Africa today lack access to electricity. That means not just facing occasional blackouts, but living entirely in the dark. And this is why we have launched Mission 300, which is the initiative of the World Bank to bring electricity to 300 million Africans by 2030. And together with Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, il Fondo Italiano per il Clima, we are working to co-finance energy projects in Congo, Ivory Coast, Mozambique, Tanzania, and also Egypt. Energy unlocks investments, and investments create jobs. 90% of jobs in Africa are created by private enterprises, and this is why the partnership with the private sector is at the center of our work with Italy. Together with IST, our private sector arm, and Eni, the Italian company, and also the Italian Climate Fund, we are working together on a biofuel project in Kenya to connect small farmers to job opportunities. And we are also working in Egypt with IFC and Cassa Depositi on a solar project. The next step is connectivity, which is the networks that connect energy to markets and markets to people. And we are working with the European Commission in Italy on a roadmap for clean energy production that will connect North Africa to Italy. So it's not about bringing electricity from corridors and cross-border grids like Helmet that can create jobs and growth on both shores of the Mediterranean. And another important initiative that we have is on critical minerals, is the Rice Partnership that is supported by Italy and implemented by the World Bank. We are helping African countries to move from extraction of critical minerals to processing and manufacturing so that these minerals don't leave the continent raw without leaving any added value or creating jobs. But we're really creating opportunities, jobs opportunities in Africa and for Africa. And it also links energy corridors like Lobito to industrial opportunities. But infrastructure and industries alone are not enough. We need people. Lasting growth depends on people, on the women and men equipped with the skills to seize these opportunities, and this is why we're working with Italy and Tunisia on a global skill partnership to train workers in skills and occupations that are in high demand in both countries and create really legal pathways to migration. So all these initiatives to say that we're working on a continuum to power to production, from investment to industry, from skills to jobs. And here it's really where the Mattei Plan and the Global Gateway converge. Last month we signed also with the European Commission an initiative to work on 18 concrete projects in energy infrastructure and digital. Lobito is one of them, where Italy is investing in expanding the railway to Zambia, the EC working on the Angola segment of the corridor, and the World Bank is also investing in infrastructure and agro-industrial zones. So the Mattei Plan is not just the Italy plans for Africa, but is really a model of how Europe can work differently, because at the end of the day, development is not just about aid. It's really about creating opportunities for dignity, for stability, and for shared growth. And so this is the spirit of our partnership, to really make jobs the true currency of dignity and peace. Grazie mille.
Grazie.
Thank you very much, Mr. De Noce. You have highlighted the link between the international relations and the international institutions and the African institutions. I give now the floor to Ms. Vignotti, Vice President of the European Investment Bank, which is directly linked into the Mattei Plan, so with strategic plans. So this plan, as you know, is very much focused on these issues, and of course the Lobito corridor is very much key in this project. Thank you very much for inviting me in order to highlight the link between the Global Gateway and the Mattei Plan. Our bank is the European Union's bank, is the really financial arm of the European Union. 27 member states are shareholder of this bank, and France and Germany are the biggest shareholders. I will speak in Italian also to underline the role of Italy within this institution, and also to show that there is convergence of these objectives, convergence between the Mattei Plan and the Global Gateway, because these are very overlapping objectives. So it's very difficult to me within the institutions to talk about these two dimensions separately, because they are so much and so deeply convergent. By the way, this is a very specific moment for us, because in Italy the strategic approach outside the European Union has just been undersigned. We have an important portfolio with 600 billion euros per year, and 10% of our activities is focused to outside the European Union. And of course we are talking about, 10 billion euros per year approximately. That means that we need to have strategic lines on which we have to base our work to fund the various initiatives. The underlying criteria is to have an impact. This is important for our projects. To have an impact where we decide to operate, we need to work efficiently, we need to work in partnership with the local stakeholders, meaning the receivers, our aids, and also more and more in this particular moment and this particular geopolitical era. It's very important to make it such a way that the European businesses become the ones that are present, that are operational. We know that in recent decades, powers over and outside Europe has been very much present in those countries, and very often they have also created debts, large debts, because the investments were not reasonable. So the global gateway, as well as also the Mattei plan's objectives and added value, is that they invest on sustainable projects, both in financial and environmental terms, but also in social terms. We know that also the social dimension is important in these countries where we operate in order to then really make a sustainable growth possible. So more and more we look at competitiveness. This is also an important dimension. For example, within the various projects, we see that 40% of funding have been assigned to European countries, which is quite relevant data. As I was saying earlier, our presence is very wide. We've invested 25 billion euros in 35 countries. And if you look at the Mattei plan's countries, you see that I've asked what is the 14th country, because according to our statistics, we have 13 countries where we have invested in 10 years, 17 billion euros. Algeria is the 14th country where we do not operate, and Sudan also. This is a country where there are major emergencies where it's very difficult to operate.
In these countries, we have invested more than 17 billions. And as other speakers have said it before, what do? We use mainly the European resources, the European budget, and the resources of the European countries. And we work, therefore, with the World Bank and European institutions, naturally also with the African Bank, which has a leader position on the continent. But we participate, also with many other counterparts. Now, there are many projects that we have worked on. For instance, the ELM project has been referred to, Medusa, or the Ramen project, where the Bay has been present. But there are also other projects, for instance, the food resilience, the food security in Egypt rather than in Tunisia. But there are many other projects for SMEs. We work in various countries, and we developed, for instance, projects for women in Mozambique, Tanzania, and there are more and more projects for the private sector, because we know that the public resources are not infinite. Therefore, the public resources can have a catalyzing role for the private sector. Therefore, we have to think of projects which can have present revenues and can give an impact, a positive impact, where we are going to work, but they have also to show results for those who want to invest. Therefore, it's a wonderful opportunity, a huge opportunity. We can show that the projects of the Plan Mattei, the EIB, and the Global Gateway converge. We are making available the same resources. Now, I would like to say something in conclusion. My colleagues make me think of something. The European Bank was born when the Treaty of Rome was signed. It was created so that the same level of development could be kept in the various EU countries. The first have been done in southern Italy. The biggest infrastructural projects were launched in southern Italy. Then they were also realized in former Eastern Europe. There has always been a very pragmatic approach, thinking of the results for those who can see what has been done. For instance, local authorities, governments, regions, the municipalities have participated in our projects. This is why we think we can be a good partner plan. Thank you, Mrs. Vigliotti, for your important contribution. Now we have Ambassador Ali Yaqub Mahmoud, the African European Permanent Representative to the European Union. Please, 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Eh bien,
l'espace d'une semaine, je reviens pour la deuxième fois.
In 1 week, it's my second time at the European Parliament to talk about the partnership between Africa and the European Union. I would like to thank you for this invite. Allow me to remind you of the context of this common thinking. During the 6th summit of the African Union, the launch of the Global Gateway with a budget of 150 billion euros for Africa have been warmly welcomed by African leaders. The launch of the Mattei plan during the Italy-Africa summit that was gathering 109.5 million euro has also been warmly welcomed in 2024. And this is because of the mindset of those new initiatives to go from the mindset of aid, of help, to an approach of creating values, creating a peer-to-peer partnership. The pillars of the Global Gateway and the Mattei plan are education, information, agriculture, health, infrastructure. All of those are closely intertwined with the 2063 agenda of the African Union. Infrastructure-wise, we know that this has been hindering the economic development of the regional integration, of the creation of jobs. And these two ambitions tackle those things in a straightforward way. And I think that we can congratulate ourselves for the success that we have observed since. The Global Gateway meeting that I have been part of in Brussels showed that the corridor Abidjan, or the Namibia initiative, or the Lobito corridor that link Zambia to Angola, bear fruits. Other efforts have been made to give access to the population to drinkable water. It shows that those projects are compatible and that they give way to a new kind of partnership between the European Union and Africa to put the past behind and to create a win-win situation. But it wouldn't be complete to avoid the conversation about the implementation of these plans. The coordination, the lack of transparency in the choice of some projects over others, the lack of visibility in the results, those are challenges that we have to overcome. The continuous consultation of African partners has to be enshrined in the definition, the follow-up, and the implementation of the work. We need to keep African and European interest cohesive. Some corridors of the Global Gateway answer to European challenges, migration-wise or energy-wise. This is legitimate, of course, but the priority must be the development of the African continent and its potential. Transparency is a fundamental for the integration of those plans in Africa, because the implementation of this plan is sometimes in contrast with the investment of Chinese counterparts in this continent. But you have to keep in mind the essential idea behind those plans. It creates a new pathway founded not on partial collaborations, but real partnerships around investment, value chains that are at the regional scale. This is why we have to keep being committed. We have to be committed to the development of Africa and always keep in mind African priorities and to keep in mind this common prosperity. Thank you very much for your attention.
Merci beaucoup, merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mahmoud. And now
I'll give the floor now.
Per i non italiani ricordo che AVSI è un'organizzazione della società civile nata nel 72 per volontà del dottor Arturo Alberti e realizza progetti di cooperazione allo sviluppo e aiuto umanitario in ben 42 paesi. Prego, dottor Silvestri.
Buongiorno, grazie per l'invito, saluto tutti i relatori. Cercherò di essere molto breve, anche perché la sintesi di quello che sto per dire l'ho pubblicata oggi in un editoriale sul Corriere della Sera e quindi, se non capite, potete leggere l'editoriale, che è molto più semplice. Allora, il piano Mattei è una grande iniziativa politica perché soprattutto ha rimesso in moto.
The piano Mattei has played a major role. As you can see, as the AVSI, we have a few projects, one in the Ivory Coast, 10 million euros. Therefore, we benefit from this, but we are also privileged actors because we can see what works and doesn't work in a country and give our contribution. I would like to refer to something that Giannelli published on Corriere della Sera. You say Jinping and Trump shaking hands, and they have a carpet between the two of them. That's Europe. That indicates what we fear, that there is a global balance that is looked for, and Europe stays at the feet of other superpowers. This, therefore, I would like to refer to the objective of the Mattei plan that can be useful for Europe so that Europe can have its relevance. The Mattei plan wants to make sure that there is development at social, human, and industry level. Now, Europe is one of the major donors to development in the world, and that's a role that we have to stick to. There is the fight from other powers that want to play their role. We have to make sure that our role is recognized with new modalities, and the Mattei plan can offer us that. What are the main points for the Mattei plan? First of all, we have launched innovative partnership in many African countries where the Italian cooperation is present. In the Ivory Coast, for instance, we have a project that was launched a year and a half ago, 200 schools that have been created. But this is only the follow-up of other cooperation that took place in the past. Now the Mattei plan wants to change the level playing field. Now we want to create partnerships, of course. The project in the Ivory Coast was made possible with the competent ministry. From this project, we will be able to see what should be the strategies for the future in the Ivory Coast. This co-programming is fundamental and will help the a Mattei plan be successful. Then let's talk about the various systems. We know that many present here have participated in projects where there is cooperation with the various governments. The interest of the Mattei plan has raised interest on many levels, but the Mattei plan, what has done, has brought together various stakeholders. We have civil societies, universities, associations, and government, and that's a very important change. Now, what is the point? What am I trying to say? The Global Gateway, once it was launched, shows how they can be the development of the human capital, which is at the very basis of what the European Union wants to do. This is the point that has to be developed. Otherwise, the civil society and the local governments, which are the entry points for those who will benefit from that, will be marginalized. The Mattei plan can inspire us. An example, if I may, in Ivory Coast, always in Ivory Coast, there are corridors that are financed by the Global Gateway. On one of these corridors, the project like ours on education can be extremely interesting in order to develop the human capital. The same can be applied to the Lobito corridor, for instance, because when we think of connectivity, railways, electric networks, we have to remember that those infrastructures will be where we have inhabitants. Therefore, they have to be involved in the choices that will be made. We can't think that we can create big markets and big businesses to counteract China, where in reality we risk to create more poverty. That we want to avoid, and it has to be avoided, because now that we think of the future MFF, we have to think of the modalities that can make sure that the Global Gateway can be positive for Europe and for third countries. This is why in the project of the Global Gateway, an important role to the civil society has to be recognized, not just as a watchdog, but as a stakeholder that can contribute to the social pact. Therefore, Mattei plan, the Global Gateway, the link, what is it, to recognize the human dignity, which has to be the primary point to be kept in mind, especially when we have to stay competing with other entities. The other point, the plan needs peace. But it's not just peace. We want a peace without disarming and without weapons. Now, we want to promote a peace. We have to promote peace, giving it the economic tools needed so that it can be promoted. That is what we need today. Thank you. Thank you, Giampaolo Silvestri, Secretary General of the AVSI Foundation. Thank you. I'll give the floor to Mr. Fidanza. Thank you all. Thank you to all the participants to this interesting panel. I would like to thank the visitors who join us from Monza and Brianza. At the end of the symposium, there will be a cocktail being offered to you. I would like to invite Ruggero Razza, MEP, President of the EU Maghreb EP delegation, author of the book Il Piano Mattei. And then Mr. Arditi, a well-known journalist of Tempo and Formiche. And we also have all the members of the next panel, whom I invite to join me. Energy, agriculture, infrastructure, and education, new opportunities for common development. Ruggero, I'll give you the floor. Mr. Razza. Thank you. First of all, try to recuperate a little bit of lost time. I would like to thank those who have preceded me, Mr. Fidanza, our head of delegation, and the group of ECR, and our President Nicola Procaccini. because they have wanted this event to take place on the Mattei plan and the Global Gateway. But this is not just a moment for a dialogue, because our group today is trying to think of cooperation between the South and the North through that wonderful connection point, which is the Mediterranean Sea. And this event takes place in a building where these kind of points have not been always welcomed. Today, thanks to the efforts of the Italian governments, we see major changes, major innovation. This is a panel that will refer to cooperation, which is within the Mattei Plan and the Global Gateway. As president of the group that works on cooperation between Europe and North Africa, I was able to see in the mixed commission meeting that took place here, but also in Rabat a few weeks ago between Europe and Morocco, I was able to actually see how our partners who are in Northern Africa have a strong willingness to cooperate with Europe. We have this objective, and this is why I want to give the opportunity to our moderator and expert to take the floor and to give the floor to Minister Lollobrigida. So we would talk about what would be our efforts in the next months and years to make sure that those who haven't understood yet that cooperation between Europe and Africa is not a political object of political debate, but rather to invest in our present and in our future. Thank you. Thank you. We will make an effort also to comply with the timing. Therefore, I would remind you all that you each have 5, maximum 7 minutes. Minister Lollobrigida should be connected. We see him on the screen. Welcome. We are ready. We'll give you the floor. Thank you, Roberto. Thank you to the organizers, in particular to Fidanza Procaccini. I listened to the presentation by Mr. Razza. I would like to thank the whole group, the whole ECR group, which is very active to make sure that Europe will do what it has to do, to find guidelines that will allow the European Union ready to promote sensible initiatives. The EEC was created in 1957. There was an idea, a major idea, that wanted to guarantee peace and prosperity. At the time, Europe was really a potential stakeholder. Over the years, the European Union was working mainly for the internal issues with choices that were linked to providing a legal framework for the European area rather than thinking of a vision looking at the outside, where today we know that Europe has to play its role in a correct manner. Now, when we think about cooperation, I believe that many mistakes were made, especially with Africa. The European vision was to implement policies either linked to single countries, having with Africa a predatory mechanism. It's a strong word, predatory, but it is what I believe. Those were the policies that were pursued at the time. Today, those countries look in a hostile manner towards the ones that had that predatory approach. It was either predatory or caritative. There was a charity like helping Africa, but without a specific objective. Today we know that it has to be consistent. Our approach has to be consistent with Mattei's approach. Cooperation on an equal footing so that there can be self-sufficiency for the continent and economic independence, where European and Italian companies can find new markets, of course, new potential, but they have to strengthen other markets for countries that can create wealth and use European products. Now, in the last 3 years, the Italian government has really worked on this. First of all, we want to be credible vis-à-vis the African continent and countries with mutual respect. From the Rome conference, where Mrs. Meloni organized an exchange and a dialogue with African countries, we had high representatives from the countries. From that moment onwards, there's been the awareness that Italy was talking to Africa with a different spirit, with a different willingness to guarantee growth and mutual respect, which was not always used, words that were missing. This is a new scenario. We have to think of other countries in the world, China, but also Turkey and Russia on Africa have applied a logic which is different from the one we have adopted. There's been progress. I'm thinking what my ministry has done, and that I have the honor to head. For instance, food independence, something about Mozambique right now, or other projects in Algeria for agricultural production. And last but not least, what is being done by private sector. This shouldn't scare anybody, because the involvement of the private sector that has the dedication to cooperate with government to develop their legitimate interests that shouldn't be underestimated. This keeping in mind the geopolitical reality and the future of African countries. There have been investments which are given major results. Of course, the African countries are all different from one another because of their reality, the governance, and this all has to be taken into account. We have to think all their needs, specific needs. Yet today, the requests that have been presented have seen that the Italian government has worked in synergy with other entities at the international level. This has allowed us to start seeing the first few results. I'm talking about the creation of new models which allow the African population, in particular youth, to know exactly what our technologies, what we can offer as innovation to promote their growth. Not just creating production and valuable production, but by using what we use in Europe to guarantee wealth and their future. We have invested in the youth, involving private schools like the Salesian Friars, who in Egypt rather than in Mozambique have reached major results, training youth that can work in their countries or be legal migrants to Europe, enhancing the competitiveness of our companies. We have open markets for our agricultural tools, for instance, but in exchange, the objective is to create work and employment where these projects are implemented. Of course, there are difficulties. This cannot be underestimated. And this is where this model wants to be different from others. It shouldn't be guided by Italy. But it is true that Italy wants to guarantee to Europe it's the support needed so that in Africa, Europe can become credible and be credible and make available what we have to the African continent, creating the conditions so that Africa can make available its immense resources for our development. A joint development where Mediterranean divides Africa from Europe, but at the same time unites the two continents. One continent cannot go ahead without the other. Therefore, we cannot make strategic choices so that there is a joint development. What we will have is conditions that will stay the same with problems that we are well aware of. The ECR, I do believe, has a major role to play in this Europe. We don't have certainties anymore with the pandemics, new conflicts close to Europe at our borders, and crisis for providing, where the food sovereignty is not a reality anymore. And we don't have resilience in our productive sectors. Well, I do believe that this is a new era, the era of awareness, where we can plan and we can check once again our development policies among those, the ones that we are working on. Once again, I want to thank all the organizers because they are bringing about a Europe that can be once again credible. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lollobrigida. This is a day that is dedicated to the Mattei plan, and Eni has to be present, as we know, cannot be absent. The creation of Enrico Mattei. We have with us Giuseppe Zaffarana, President of the Eni. Mr. President, thank you. Thank you for being with us today. It is a pleasure to listen to you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lollobrigida. Thank you to all the participants. I would like to thank you for inviting me to this event. I would like to talk about the shared future of Africa and Europe. In 2050, in Africa, we will have 25% of. We see you and we can hear you. Within 2050, Africa will have 25% of world population, most of them young people with limited access to energy and instructions and other fundamental needs. Therefore, we have to have values in common, Africa and Europe, so that we can offer our technologies to Africa, so that we can see what the African government need to create value for the local communities. Today, we see a multipolar logic. We want to participate in premise. We want to work towards positive perspectives for all. In the last few years, we know that there have been major changes between Africa and Europe. I'm thinking, for instance, what we have done with Algeria, which enhanced an already existing structure, especially for Italy, in a geopolitical area of changes. Let's think what happened after the conflict Russia-Ukraine, when in a few weeks we had to make sure that we could get the raw materials that we needed that before came from Russia. Now, the links with Africa are a priority for us, not only for the energy, but also to provide an inclusive development. And this is why the Mattei plan launched by the Italian government is a model for a multilateral cooperation with Africa. I am thinking about our founder and his pioneering idea, exchange between on an equal footing and not predatory, extended to social plan, exchange of know-how and not just infrastructures. But the Mattei plan highlights the relationship between Italy, Europe, and the African continent. With more than 50% of the investments towards Africa, Eni is one of the major investors, international investors in Africa, where it produces more than 50% of the hydrocarbons, hydrofuels from its portfolio. This is 10% of the African production, and it is in Africa and with Africa that we have developed our cooperation with different partners, with a real partnership based on trust and the creation of values in the long term. And this is why Eni decided to devolve 80% of gas coming from Africa to local market instead of thinking of exporting it. Countries involved, there are some with whom Eni is a friend, Egypt and Republic of Congo. Others are younger friends, but with whom we have a very strong friendship for like Kenya, Mozambique, or Ivory Coast. Kenya is a very interesting model. There is a project that was launched in Africa for vegetable oil production in degraded area. Now it's a feedstock to produce advanced biofuels. This in order to help local farmers. This also creating a rural income for those involved in this project. 100 units so far. It's a synergy between the farming sector with creating of biofuels, and on the other hand, the energy sector with major plus for the local community. This is part of financed by the International Finance Corporation, which is part of the World Bank, and the Italian Fund for Climate, all this for sustainable growth and social growth. Let's not forget instructions and education with the dual flag approach. We have also a Center of Excellency in Democratic Republic of Congo, working with UNIDO from the UN and with the support of the European Union. This center can be an important point for transition in the area. And we want to promote the synergy between the Mattei Plan and the Global Gateway, which will allow the modernizing harbor, railways, exchange of energy, but also to promote commerce in Africa. Today, there are 600 million people in Sub-Sahara who do not have access to energy. Let's imagine the importance of what has to be done by the private and the public sector to fill this gap. Let's not forget the digital changes and what is being done in the infrastructures for the African countries. We know that all these are very important points for social and economic development. Eni integrates all this in the supercomputing structures and AI. All this to promote the economic transition and the energy transition. We want to make sure that there is a partnership with the local communities, promoting all sectors, social, health, and education. All this so that there can be a sustainable growth where everything goes hand in hand with sustainable benefits for all. Africa has a vital role for Europe, but there are challenges that we must all face together in a common framework. This can be and has to be an investment for the future with mutual respect for one another. All this has to be done so that all stakeholders can express themselves, so that our commitment will respond to the expectations of our partner countries. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have now, and we're very much looking forward to listening to him, the Chief Executive Director of the Italian Railway Company. Please, the floor is yours. First of all, I would like to thank MEP Fidanza for organizing this important event, which is very timely, by the way, also as to the international development of our railway group. I also would like to thank MEP Procaccini and his political party, because this topic defines the future of Africa and Europe in the next 10 years, 10, 15 years, I would say. First of all, I would assess what we're already doing within the Mattei plan, because this is one of the most important initiatives that today defines the way Europe will have to follow the next 10, 15 years. I'm saying this because when you invest in infrastructures, you need at least 5-7 years to project them, to implement them, and then you will need 5-7 years more to see the effect. So we are talking about time spent which are quite long. How far are we? Well, first of all, our group within the Mattei plans is committing into two key lines. First, education and training. I think that this is it's important to understand what tools are necessary to create jobs, high quality jobs and infrastructures, because there is an infrastructures gap, which is a major gap. Europe and Africa needs to fill it. These are important commitments because we're talking about a continent with 13,000 square kilometers, 10 million, 1/3 approximately of what we have in Europe. And if we want to look at the development to speak about the transport mobility, then major investments will be needed, not only in terms of competitiveness of Europe, but also as to the financial markets capacity to fund and to make huge financial instruments available. We are present in Tunisia with some initiatives dedicated to education, because people that will travel on trains will have to be qualified, will have to be educated, not only in Europe, but also in Africa. We are present in Egypt with the Salesians, Don Bosco's association, to manage and to realize the mobility nets of the future. We're also present in Morocco with the same agenda: formation, training, and infrastructures. Anytime we do something, we select a country where we want to operate always. So we focus on this. First of all, we need to give the possibility to people to be able, to be skilled, to be able to realize the project we are investing into. But that's not everything. We also think of another important element. Extraordinary opportunities are open to Europe for sure in Africa. As you know, we have what we call trains that 300 kilometers per hour. Trains. There are very few regions worldwide, in China and in Japan, and not much more. In France, in Spain, in France, you know that high speed is an everyday unique traveling experience, which represents the excellence of engineering and transport, not only at Italian level, not only at European level, but across the world. So this is a key point for us, a key topic, and this is my second message. The purpose of Europe should be to By the way, I see here many ambassadors which I agreed from Africa. And if I can share a comment, in the last 20 years in Davos, I think that the community that has mostly contributed to give a sense to this development is the African leaders community. I think that anytime we meet in Davos in January, like we will do between 19th and 22nd of January 2026, the African leadership will be more and more important to understand how much pride Africa has to develop its continent. I think that Europe can be a strategic partner to do this. Last point, in particular for Europe and for Italy. Many people work with us with this spirit. We are persuaded the world is becoming bigger and bigger, and Europe could be too small if there is no partnership, no alliance with someone else in order to scale up worldwide. This is an important shift. This is a key. And in particular, I'm persuaded that Italy, with the Mattei plan, is putting together skills, forces, strength at industrial level, at research, at academic level, creating for the first time a real whole system. So we want to export the Italian excellence, the excellence, but we need to work more together, okay? Because to win worldwide, you need to have another scale, another kind of approach. So thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. This is a very, very historical day. Thank you very much, Ms. MEP Fidanza, for organizing this. Thank you very much. Antonio Gozzi, the president of Federacciaio, is connected within Confindustria for the Mattei plan. We see him on video, right, on a screen. So we are trying to cut times. So I also have to remind this to you, but we are much looking forward to hearing from you. But first of all, you need to switch on your mic. Thank you in advance. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very much, MEP Fidanza, for organizing this initiative, and thank for supporting our own initiatives. We, Confindustria, we welcome very warmly this international commitment, the strategic Mattei plan. Of course, this plan recalls the importance of looking in that direction. Many Italian businesses have been working for a long time already in that part of the world, and I've heard the last speaker, for example. I think that what is missing is a global approach. And the Mattei plan has this differential element. So we have this kind of spirit that is the mutuality that is key. And we think that Italy and the Italian businesses, the Italian enterprises are empathic, right? They also have somehow a cultural familiarity, cultural closeness with this kind of schemes, with this kind of approach. And Confindustria is very much cooperating with the government. The government has asked us to do basically two things. First, to map and to coordinate tens and tens of education sessions of initiatives, of entrepreneurial initiatives. So to follow this from the educational point of view, in order to support the various initiatives that have already been launched in Africa, but maybe they're not coordinated with one another and they don't know anything about one another. So we are just about to undersign a memorandum of understanding with the government, in particular, its internal stakeholder, in order then to present by the end of the year a list of all education initiatives that are being developed in Africa. These formation and education sessions and initiatives dedicated to Africans that can come and work in Italy, and alternatively to educate, to train people that are dedicated to the development of Africa, so really to work according to the full spirit of the Mattei's plan. So what we are aiming at is to identify suitable modalities, also starting from other successful examples, to involve also small and medium enterprises within this plan. We are unceasingly encouraged by our interlocutors that are persuaded that the Mattei plans can really help taking these new opportunities. So these small and medium enterprises are willing to also join these initiatives. Confindustria represent, of course, as you know, this very diverse industrial stakeholders. There are many in Italy, so we have already organized many meetings with Italian big businesses, private and public stakeholders, in order to identify the ways how we can involve also small and medium enterprises. As it already been recalled, Africa is an asset, is a fantastic opportunity for any Italian entrepreneur that is looking for new markets and new possibilities, new opportunities with that specific approach. That is strategic in order to launch these relationships with Africa. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. We have Federica De Manca, Vice President of the International Fund for the Agriculture Fund, agency of United Nations since 1997, and so the work is dedicated to the agriculture and the agricultural population of this part of the world. Federica Diamanti, the floor is yours. Thank you. So first of all, I would like to thank MEP Fidanza for inviting me, and of course also the ECR political group. I'm honored to represent IFAD in this context, but first of all, I would like to say that I was working for the Italian Ministry for Finance until last year. So I was really there when this plan was set. So today I am honored and pleased to be here, a representative of IFAD, knowing that it is very much involved in this plan. And we know that this plan is becoming more and more a model, a cooperation model, an inspirational model. IFAD is the international financial institution. You may not know, we are based in Rome, and we fund the promotion of agriculture. Agriculture is at the heart of poor countries. That is our mission, and that is not only a matter of poverty. We know that poor people live mostly in rural areas. So of course, you need to work on both dimensions, agriculture and poor people. So you cannot split the two dimensions. But at the same, you also have to know that these are also potential markets, can also become important markets for Italy as well as also for all the European countries. And agricultural systems are still the backbone of these economies. So with young populations, if you have indeed jobs, stable jobs, this can create conditions of peace and stability, and also somehow put under control migration of flows. I have also had the possibility to represent Italy within the African Bank. I lived there in Abidjan, and I've become aware that the ambition of the Mattei plan was not present before. And also, I could see also within the Prime Minister, within the government, there is this elan, there is this willingness to put together the civil society or institutional authorities, the financial institutions. So now IFAD is considered as an important partner, but of course everything depends on what they do on spot when they operate in those countries. For example, the Mattei's plan has this merit too, that is to open the collaboration, a recent collaboration with other stakeholders. Now I don't want to be too long because otherwise I will lose my time that I've been attributed. The private-public partnership that for sure is essential in this approach. Of course, the political vision is key too. We need to have it in order to make these exchanges real efficient on spot. As far as IFAD is concerned, we are involved in two major projects. One in Senegal, for example, with Bonifiche Ferraresi, with over 250 million projects in the field of food sovereignty for Senegal. Food sovereignty, as it was recalled before, it means basically to have the capacity to face disruptions and not to be just shocked by anything can happen, but to be somehow tooled to face major challenges. So the Italian government is also co-funding with 90 million euro that the Senegal is borrowing from Italy. So we're doing this effort together with Bonifiche Ferraresi. IFAD will help building streets, building markets, developing, for example, education and training, and the other stakeholder, Bonifiche Ferraresi, is also doing a major effort. But these two stakeholders need to talk to one another. The dialogue is absolutely necessary to make this effort really fruitful. Then we also have another project in the Ivory Coast. This is specifically dedicated to the agro-food industry in the northern part of Ivory Coast. Zanzan is its name in this frame. Italy is funding a lot because Italy has a holistic approach that is infrastructures, energy, and water, because, of course, you need everything to develop agriculture. That is why I'm talking in terms also of rural development and not only agriculture in this respect. The Italian government will then help the rice growing, so to make in such a way that rice can become a commodity for that country that will be grown and, very much available. So IFAD is doing that, is funding this, of course, so we can understand this approach, the peer-to-peer approach, the training education backbone. Of course, European countries are interested to be involved. They want to be involved, but they're also then to have this not only for national interest, but also to have debt growth become a reality. So, of course, this means that more money will help produce a revenue. That means that also the Italian investment will be more fruitful, and the credible partner, will make this revenue, grow even more. So, Global Gateway consider this model an efficient model that can be replicated. So we are having a lot of exchanges with the European Commission in order to see how this model, this scheme can be reiterated also in a further context within the Global Gateway. I also would like to add that Italy is an extraordinary stakeholder. All European countries are contributing very well to this, and the European Commission in particular has some also collaboration projects with us. So a collaboration now with the Global Gateway and the Mattei Plan helps a lot. And of course, it is one of the most, I would say, timely objectives we are following. Thank you. Okay, now we give the floor to Mr. Vecchioni of Bonifiche Ferraresi. But first of all, let me remind to the ones that come outside Italy that Bonifiche Ferraresi works in the agricultural field. It's a major stakeholder with diversified activities. Federico Vecchioni will take the floor very soon, but please allow me that they were born in 1870. Okay, so they've been working for 170 years running, which is a great thing. Vecchioni, the floor is yours. Thank you very much, for inviting me. We are present in approximately 10 countries. We are preparing grounds and seeds. We have brought technology, innovation, the Italian know-how in these countries, always with the local partners. We have started in Algeria, with which we're working very well, in Touggourt, in the Touggourt region, and also in other countries, for example, Ivory Coast, Senegal, Congo-Brazzaville, Ghana, just to mention a few. Our teams consist of young people coming from Italy and also local young people, boys and girls. Almost 100 people have been involved. They're not necessarily coming out of the university with a diploma. They have been trained and they operate in the whole supply chain, from drones to digitalization to seeds genetics. We do there what we do in Italy. So from seeds genetics, so for the first time, okay, we make something there. Seeds remain there, okay? We don't bring them back. We give them these seeds. We, of course, work with the Italian seeds genetic seeds stakeholder in Italy. Then also we also work in terms of land transformation, cereals, just to mention some of the crops we have, but also poultry, which is very much required by those countries. We are starting in this respect in terms of cooperation and developments. The cooperation with the Italian government is very strong to this purpose, and as it was recalled, we are also working with limited companies. So we are then due to look at the Mattei plan with a special eye, because we are a limited company, so that means that also we have to take into account the shareholders' role. Our projects in this framework of cooperation development has found a new formula: 50% public funding, 50% of private funding. So 50-50 private public, and I think that we are working very well with this. I believe that this will allow us also in this new context to be, a stakeholder which is really capable of delivering concrete outline. We are not buying any land. We cooperate with local businessmen. We partner with them. We're not buying their land. So, of course, anything that will be proposed will have to be accepted only by the local stakeholders. Everything will depend on their own choice, on their own willingness to take our proposals or not. We are an Italian company, totally Italian, for the very first time in a field which is apparently different than the typical energy field. In 24 months, we have been able to cope with the major challenge. I have also asked for more capital to invest in this. Investors were available to believe in our projects. So many young people have been involved. Development, training of new skills have been developed. And all this, of course, have made this project a common project, not only our project. The participation of about 100 businesses, Italian businesses of any field, make the Mattei plan, which is, of course, the fruit of a political willingness, a plan with extraordinary results in terms of wealth vectors. So we're working in this direction. We want to be present not only in 10, but in the 14 countries of the Mattei plan. Maybe 20 one day, and I hope that we will have the political willingness to show the Italian capacity of executing many projects and also the respect of scheduling. So I hope that in spring 2026 we will be able to inaugurate the modern farm, the first modern farm, to show that all these investments will have bear the fruit. We have been able then to create a result, an output for all the local communities. All of them are welcoming us. They are very much willing to understand cooperation with us. We have heard AFSI, and we are not an association, okay? We are a limited company, but we also have allies on spot, and they are very precious. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vecchioni. Now we have the last speech before a last video. We also have Mr. Latini, which is connected. So please, let's comply with the time constraints. We're listening now to the responsible of the ACEA internal relations. So it's a big business, Italian business. And ACEA was created in 1909, and recently with over 10,000 customers, it has dedicated a lot of funds to water. Dr. Latini, we're happy to hear you.
Grazie, buongiorno, Dottor Ardito, grazie.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It is a real pleasure for me to be able to share with all of you our perspective. As you know, we are very active in the water and electric sector, as well as on environmental issues. As ACEA, our main contribution is linked to water. But I also have to say that we are also very active in the other sectors as waste. We make our expertise available for an integrated development and good usage of water. We offer technical support, but also strategic support when we are asked to do so. I would like to say in a few words that ACEA is a leader in our sector. We cover from the extraction to all the way to depuration. We have more than 10 million users in Italy with 90,000 kilometers of water and depuration plants. We are also participating in the biggest water sector, which is the Peschiero project. We are trying to do that so that we can secure the provision of water to the capital, Rome, which we have done for the last century. So we work on the aqueduct, but we are also creating an innovation hub, which is our experimental structure where we work to be always a leader in the sector with robotics and artificial intelligence. We are also present abroad. We are present in South America, Honduras, Dominican Republic, among others, where we offer the services to more than 10 million users. So this is our characteristics. We can manage very complex structures, but also work on innovation. Therefore, we can offer, as we said, the infrastructures, but also offer the technical changes, and therefore we are involved within the Mattei plan. We are working with Congo Brazzaville, but also Mauritania and other countries. So we are involved in the implementation, which was already said this morning, but also training, specific training in water management. We are involved in the work that Mr. Gozzi referred to, extending to the Mattei Plan's countries our water management that we apply in Italy to future managers elsewhere. And I would like to say that this is not explained or presented as models to be exported, but rather initiatives which have a basic framework that we work on with the local community to respond to their needs, social and others. Therefore, this model of governance, this is what we want to make sure can be exported. So we have institutional stakeholders, but also other actors, the financial actors, which is the case in Italy. Now, in this new architecture, which is a public-private partnership, which is one step forward in the economic and industrial diplomacy with Africa, ACEA can find new opportunities for business, openness on emerging market, at least in the 14 priority countries. We know that we can have new industrial partnerships between Italy and other countries, something that, if I may say, makes us think of a wider cooperation, which will have a major role for our supply chain, where we can play our role. Therefore, the global gateway and the Italian Mattei plan can only be seen as an opportunity to be better integrate and help one another. First of all, by having more than 300 million euros for resilient infrastructures. The second, by offering a connection which is already a reality with the African countries. These two different frameworks have one point in common: to integrate the public interest and geopolitical reality with the private know-how. By integrating all these elements, we can implement concrete projects to which the ACEA is already contributing. And the culture has to be a culture of partnership and cooperation with one objective: to make sure that the sustainable transition can be an offer, and a real possibility for the development for Africa and for Europe. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have one contribution which is recorded. Fabio Cattaneo will listen to it now. Thank you. Thank you all. I would like to thank the organizers for this event. I would like to apologize because business commitments didn't allow me to be with you. The Enel Group has been in Africa, has been present in Africa for many years, investing in solar, wind, and hydroelectric plants across various countries. Enel participates to initiatives tied to the Mattei plan launched by the Italian government. We also collaborate with governments and local companies to build strategic infrastructure contributing to the social and economic development of the area. Beyond these investments, Enel is also committed on another level to develop technical and managerial skills in its own sector, the energy sector. This is done through a structured training program which is led by Enel Foundation in partnership with Rest for Africa and on Mohammed VI University. The project was born in Morocco, but the idea is to involve other African countries to train every year managers, technicians, men, women, young and older individuals. We need to share some examples that this can shed light. The first course focused on training renewable energy managers involved more or less 50 people selected from over 500 applicants. The second edition received more than 1,000 applications for just 40 spots, most of them women. This shows clearly how this region of the world hungers also for training. Later, the courses were extended to technicians. This year, we expanded, therefore, our activities to Kenya, cooperating with the University of Nairobi, and South Africa with the University of Pretoria. We are firmly convinced that Africa represents an opportunity, not just for its vast renewable energy potential, but also as an incredible talent pool that needs to be properly trained. By investing in people, we accelerate Africa's energy transition and we build lasting partnerships. By giving also to local communities the tools that they need to drive development and to create conditions for renewable sector investments in public and private sector. I thank you all for your kind attention, and I apologize once again for not being there with you today. And I wish you good luck and good work. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. With the contribution by Flavio Cattaneo, I would like to close this panel. Thank you to Arditi, Razza. Okay, Mr. Razza hasn't told you because he's very humble that he sent to printing this document, the Mattei plan, how Meloni brought piano to the basin. So thank you. You can use it as a Christmas gift. Now I would like to call Vice President of the Regi Committee, Mr. Ventola, and the MEPs for the last panel. We have with us the Alfredo Mantovano with us. Is Undersecretary of State to the Presidency of the Council of the Italian Government. Thank you for your presence. He's doing an incredible job. He coordinates the work for the Mattei plan. Who could have closed this panel better than he can? Mr. Mantovano, please. Thank you. Thank you to MEP Fidanza. During his first speech as President of the Council, Giorgia Meloni highlighted the need to have a Mattei plan for Africa, a virtual model for growth and between the African nations and Europe. All this with the objective to uproot the reasons of illegal immigration and to counteract against jihadist terrorism. Her words were not accepted very kindly, more with skepticism at the time. Some people said this is an empty box or just a slogan like others. Well, after a few years, facts show that it was not just a slogan. In October of last year, 2024, therefore for quite a while, we know that there's been the first on Algerian territories, the first, the idea became a reality thanks to Bonifica Ferrarese. With more than 400 million euros, seeds were planted, and this area that was a part of the desert, 36,000 hectares today are planted, and according to European Housing Ambrosetti, this should produce between 40 and 40,000 cereals and vegetables, with an impact on more or less 600 individuals. These products will stay there. 6,000 workers in the area, 1,500 with time contracts. Since last year, good examples of the Mattei plan have flourished, not only in the agricultural sector. Think about AI. Last month in Rome, within the UN program for development, there's been the AI, which has been inaugurated. This platform was presented during the G7. In order to make sure that the African ecosystem can be further involved in artificial intelligence, new technologies. Therefore, concrete results. Those concrete results has allowed the African countries to once again trust us again after there was such a disillusionment towards Italy and Europe, which so many, many years have thrown them in the arms of countries like Russia and China. We see it because there's been a continuous request to be part of the plan. At the beginning, there were only 9 countries, African countries, that were involved. Today, 14. Now we have a geopolitical reality today, and these are important signals from 9 to 14 countries. Therefore, beginning of 2025, we have given the Mattei plan, we have additional quality by linking it to the European Global Gateway. This will allow us to have more resources available. So we are determined to go ahead. Therefore, the Global Gateway Mattei plan was celebrated in June in Rome. Mrs. Meloni and Mrs. van der Leyen were present. So there's been a change of pace during that summit. 11 agreements were signed, the memorandums of understanding, financing equal to 1.2 billion euros for energy food initiatives. The Mattei plan and the Global Gateway is also better organized so that we have synergies. One officer of the EU is now in Italy at the headquarters of the government to make sure that the two plans are integrated. So, but to make sure that this works, what do we need? We need to pay attention to one point. We have to preserve the spirit of Mattei plan, meaning equal footing, pragmatic, open approach. Because this is what made the Mattei plan credible to the eyes of the African nations. What does that mean? That means that in its further development, Mattei plan and Global Gateway have to aim to solve concrete problems, hunger, political instability, uncertainty, and should not, as Paola Francesca said before, to impose ideological colonialism on issues which are not important, which transfer to the African countries our models. Second point, the cooperation with projects which bring about sincere confrontation with our African partners, thinking of their needs and not not think of what has to be done because we have a so-called enlightened expert that is closed in an office here at the EU or elsewhere. It's not a question of principles, it's a question of substance. The approach has to be pragmatic, open, on equal footing. This has allowed the Mattei plan to find, together with African countries, new solutions to help them in the financing obstacles that they have. Listening to the African requests, not only the ones that are part of the plan, but also others that have specific need. This is why we have thought of a wide and long-term idea to convert the debt, 285 million euros in the next 10 years. Our partners, therefore, can do what is needed, concentrate on their internal needs instead of thinking of paying back the debt. All this can be done together, working together. Now, if we can keep and respect this spirit, the Mattei Plan and the Global Gateway can really be a new chapter in the global geopolitical reality, allowing Europe to come back as a main stakeholder on the geopolitical scene with its specificity. It's an opportunity that the African countries have shown interest in, major interest in, and we shouldn't miss this opportunity. And what you are saying today goes in that direction, and I thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you to Mr. Mantovano, Undersecretary of State to the Presidency of the Council of the Italian Government. Thank you. The floor to Letizia Moratti, please, and I ask her to please comply with the time, speaking time. Thank you, Carlo Finanza for organizing this event on a topic which should involve all of Europe, to go from a paradigm of help, assistance, with Africa being the recipients of subsidies, to a real partnership that will allow us to build a strong relationship based on competence, on local development and local investments. This, I believe, is the most important objective of this meeting and of the Mattei plan. I am proud as an Italian citizen that Italy opened the path for this vision, for this change of paradigm, with a plan which is audacious, with 6 different directives, water, energy, sustainability, just to mention 3 out of 6, linked also to innovation, energy, artificial intelligence, a plan which is already being implemented, 5 billion euros already used with Global Gateway, and which is being implemented as we speak. I would like to refer, if I may, to one point which is very dear to me. I do believe very strongly in cooperation, and this kind of cooperation, which is partnership between Italy, Europe, and Africa. I have the honor of presiding an association that I created in 2015. EFRA Impact is a non-profit present in 20 African countries. We train managers with MBA and different training programs, cooperating with 30 African universities. Therefore, young people who come out of this training will have 2 titles, 2 degrees, Italian and African. So they have 2 degrees. We also have created 8 centers that train, with incubators, train managers and create companies. We have trained more than 2,000 managers, 4,000 farmers. For each company that we created, more or less 1,000 for each created. Now, each one of them has 13 direct workers, plus the third parties involved. Today's event is, I believe, a good step in the right direction. There was an incredible intuition that Mrs. Meloni had by creating the Mattei plan. I am convinced that the role of the European Parliament in creating a project which is not aiming at development, but which is a political project, a project of value, of sharing, of sustainability, that will create jobs, that gives dignity to people, that respect their freedom to live in their wonderful continent. It's one step in the right direction, because the role of the African Parliament, is just as important as the role of the European Parliament. We have to think of an ecosystem which is made of institutions, companies, research centers, universities, with one objective: to make sure that this fantastic and extraordinary continent, with a level of creativity and entrepreneurship unique in the world, can really value its own talents and its own economies. Only one word, if I may. As Vice President of the ITRE committee, we have a few projects that can be linked to this. So the project, Horizon project, research and development projects, which can be created with the partnership, or the critical raw material initiative with Terra, which have to be developed by thinking that there is a partnership between Africa and Europe, and the industrial deal that can create sustainable employment in this extraordinary continent. Thank you. Mrs. Moratti, thank you. I would like to say hello to Mrs. Marechal and Donazzan, who are present, and Stefano Gavidagna, please.
I noted what the speaker from NL said, that Africa has a potential, indeed, and a talent pool that remain largely untapped. And what the Mattei plan is promising, in my opinion, is the dignity and the opportunity to tap into that potential. So I would say one thing to you. I know that I'm surrounded by Italians and I should not be doing this because you didn't ask, but I'm a woman of 45 years old. And the reason when I say that is that there are people I grew up with when I was in Africa as a child, and they are also my age. And these people, I know today, they have never, ever had their own job. They do not own their own house. They do not have their own revenue. They do not have a financial plan. So if you never had the opportunity to have a job, how can you control your own mind? And how can you have a life that is full of dignity if you do not have your own money and a sense of purpose? This exists in the context of the current development aid. So what these people would want is a business that comes along and give them a job. And while the left is speaking about other things here. So that's why I say that what the Mattei plan is promising is dignity. I'm the ACR, I'm proud to be the ACR shadow rapporteur on the Global Gateway in the AFET committee, and continue working on this. I'm also grateful that my colleague, Carlo Fidanza, is organizing this event. I'm thrilled and moved that we heard so many businesses speaking common sense, that today we are hearing businesses and not NGOs. This is very important. I'm grateful for that. And as a European, I'm very proud of the Mattei plan and of the Italian initiative. As an African-born person, I feel respected and trusted. Because there is this potential that remained too long unseen, that is being seen now, and that has been ignored for too long. The cost of that is not only for Africans, the cost of that is also for European businesses who did not have the opportunity to have a win-win plan and a deal with these companies. And as far as I can remember, from where I was born and grew up in Africa as a child, I never saw anything that was optimistic about development. There was only stories about aid, stories about paternalism, which in fact, let's tell the truth, is racism, because they will not believe that you can do it. If nobody believes that you can do it, you end up maybe not believing that you can do it. This is racism of low expectation, and it's not only applied to Africa as a continent, it's also applied to European people with African descent. And the left will believe you cannot do it, that they need to give you something, that you cannot have your own job, that you cannot become independent, that you cannot adapt to Europe. And at the end, you will always be someone who is relying on social security and voting for them for your whole life, while they are having good jobs to continue saying the same nonsense in Parliament. So today we are here because we want change. I did not become an independent woman thanks to socialism. I do not think that socialism can help someone become an independent woman or an independent person. I know that socialism cannot. I know that the fact that I am today a free and independent woman with my own mind, my own property, my own life is based on hard choices, on my own choices made possible by center-right policy, not victimhood, not paternalism, not racism of low expectation. The independence is what the Mattei plan would like to offer, and what I would like to contribute with is what we do here in this parliament, in what we're saying to each other, in how we're changing the narrative, in how we're shifting from aid to trade. Because Africa does not need just aid. Africa needs respect. Africa needs rhetoric to be replaced by results, and we need entrepreneurs in Africa, not NGOs. We need actually the people, the talent in Africa to be used. And to end, I would like to say that Africa needs investors who stay in the room when the cameras are off. Investors who come with real money, not those who come with declarations. And one example is when I was like a teenager, starting, when you start thinking that you know better than your parents in Africa, I will say it happens differently than when you're in Europe, but it was that time of my life. Yeah? And I remember seeing Jacques Chirac on television, and he was speaking about all the billions that they were bringing to Africa. I challenge anyone to tell me whether they saw the billions. I didn't see it. I don't think citizens saw it. But I know that the president then maybe saw some money, I don't know how much, but it didn't go to the people. It went to pockets we do not know. And using Europe as an ATM is not serving the African people, and it's not serving the European people either. I am proud today that when I came here, I spoke to my friend and former colleague, Jean-Julien Ilunga, who is here in the room. Don't kill me for calling you up. Please do like this so that people can see where you are sitting. Jean-Julien Ilunga is running Galuni Consulting. We worked together when I was a banker. We worked together at BNP Paribas. And we founded the Friends of Africa network with bankers in Europe who could actually have a different view on Africa. But we went to do other things, and Jean-Julien stuck to the goal, and he's now running his own consulting business. So if you are in the room, you want to talk to him, feel free to. I want to show that African children chose also another path, not the one of aid, because it's indeed that aid, like Dr. Dambiza Moyo wrote. We know that what can change Africa is trade, is jobs, is a future for the youth, and is cooperation and respect. And that is the same for migrant communities in Europe. Thank you so much for including me in this conversation. I'm really very happy to be here today.
Grazie. Passo subito la parola alla collega.
So I give immediately the floor to Céline. Céline Imar. Dear friends, the Mattei plan brings a basic reality. It's a method based on mutual cooperation and dialogue between Europeans and Africans. The purpose is to stabilize, develop, and put in and secure the partners in order to offer the African population the material conditions to allow them to live in a sustainable way over time in their territories in security. For more than 10 years, Italy is on the forefront to cope, for example, people coming from there. This emergency has reminded a reality that has been neglected for so long here in Brussels. And if we do not stabilize the southern side of the continent, we are at risk. The Mattei plan responds to this challenge, and this is the point that makes the whole plan very regional against the trafficking of human beings, the protection of borders, the development aid and the infrastructures development, in particular in the energy field. The Mattei plan does not split safety and development, and this is consistency that was missing so far. In this frame, the coordination with the Global Gateway is key. Italy is bringing the political effort, and then a Global Gateway ensures the European coordination. So together, these two elements can create a structured reality which the European Union is assuming fully. We already see the first achievements, in particular the Lobito corridor, which illustrates very well this approach. So it's not just linking production points to the ports, but it's a way to open a whole region which is very, very strong to connect agriculture, logistics, regional markets, and to transform local resources into economic activity fully. As a member of the agricultural field, I'm very happy to see that agriculture is so important to Mattei plans, so as to organize local communities and also to structure the local economies. The challenge consists of to improve irrigation and to achieve irrigation tools for the local agriculture, because if water can flow, then territory can develop and transmit further. The Mattei plan proposes a regional integration grounded on co-investment and not on independence and unilateral assistance. This is deployed in a world where Africa is competing internationally. Our response cannot just be remaining passive. The Mattei plan represents the better European initiative and alternative in this direction. The Mattei plan needs to be fully European in order to be rooted and strengthened. This is what we have to support and multiply. Europe cannot afford to be hesitant in this respect. Thank you. And a supplement in this round of applause for your excellent Italian language.
Même si nous sommes dans un environnement italophone.
We are in an Italian-speaking environment. Thank you, Carlo, for the initiative of this meeting. We have great speakers that are very diversified on a very diverse topic about relationships and future partnerships between Africa and Europe. I think that the Mattei plan has a great quality, a lot of merit, because it tackles all the aspects of the relationship between the European Union and Africa. The economy, the energy, the migration, the logistic point of views. And they also address it without taboo and without complex. Because we know that the relationship between Africa and the European Union has been dominated by taboos and things that were hindering us from establishing new partnerships. I think that there are blind spots that have hindered the partnership between Africa and Europe. It's the fact that we are not trying to reproduce past strategies. We do realize as European countries that every African country has their own sovereignty, their own choices, their own resources, their own needs, and that needs to be respected. We also avoid from always feeling like culprits of history. In France or in Spanish-speaking countries, we had privileged relationships with African countries, and you can have a very critical point of view on certain periods of time or how things were in the past, but this should not hinder our future partnerships. There's another obstacle that the Mattei plan is avoiding, and it's what has been said in some European institutions, is the fact that we tend to sugarcoat some subsidies and funds to give ourselves a good conscience, but those funds, they sometimes did not get to their end beneficiaries, or they would not fund what they were supposed to. And there's another approach about not being invested in the African continent and leaving aside all the opportunities, leaving it a victim to other predatory countries such as China or Russia. Today, we need very strong relationships within the European Union and Africa. We need to abide by the specificities of the African continent, and we need to create all the conditions that would foster the development of the continent facing its demographic boom. We know that we are going to get from 1 billion to 2.5 billion inhabitants in 10 years, and this economic development will help it to face this demographic challenge. And one of the requirements for this development is infrastructure, digital infrastructure, railway infrastructure, road infrastructure, and in some countries there is also the challenge of electrification. We have addressed several other issues: access to water, desalination. And of course, we could have a winning partnership between the European Union and Africa, because we have companies, we have the expertise to be solid partners in Africa. These challenges could be seen as necessary to foster development in the future, and this should be the right way to go forth to answer all the needs and all the challenges of each African country. Of course, these partnerships, this solid economic, energy, industry partnership have to take into account the migration challenge. And this is what has been done by Giorgia Meloni since she has started her mandate. We have a privileged partnership such as the one that we have with Egypt or RDC, so that these partnerships take into account this notion of managing immigration exchanges. It's very important for Africa to keep its youth, to keep it from brain drains, but it's also important for the European Union to live in a very limited and densely populated countries that cannot foster all of this immigration. Those are our major challenges. Thank you so much, Carlo. Thank you to all the speakers, because this Mattei plan open a lot of possibilities for Africa as well as for the European Union to reform their relations. Thank you.
Approfitto per ringraziare la collaborazione.
Okay, I would like to thank interpreters, which thank you very much. Before giving the floor to the last speaker, allow me to share a reflection to you. For sure, for us Italians, well, we know this, right? We know this already, but there is no doubt that the Mattei plan is a concrete vision, a ethical cooperation vision, a sustainable cooperation vision between Africa and Europe, between Africa and Italy. I would say even a just, a fair cooperation, enhancing the value and dignity of a person, father, mother, consumer, worker, worker, any of these features are important. So we want to be at the forefront, and this is really what we wanted to build, a future of peace, freedom and stability. Paolo, the floor is yours. Mr. Fidanza, Mr. Ventola, thank you very much, and thank you to each of you, the best of Italy, which is represented in this meeting. So, sorry. Also, I thank very much the Lombardy region's representation. Let me be proud of this. So this can really change history. We are fully aware of this. We are very proud of this, and we would like to thank our party, our government, and in particular President Meloni for this very long-sight vision. Europe, if Europe does not represent the lighthouse of the continent, then okay, that's a problem. It's because it has abandoned its own identity to bring forward ideologist visions, right? On any field, I would say. Why? Because we are experiencing an unprecedented demographic winter on which we are investing. And then let's come to the topic today. We're abandoning our natural role as Europe. And on this, we are working very hard. In particular, with our delegation, we are working within the Cooperation and Development Commission, with Africa, with Maghreb, with Mr. Arasa, and we are bringing forward this vision, not just assistance that enriches the NGOs, because, of course, NGOs are very much interested in keeping peoples poor and dependent. NGOs are this, but we wanted to consolidate and confirm a vision according to which the work of Italian and European entrepreneurs can help Africa to become independent, can set free of these relations. Okay, but I would like also to underline something. To live in peace in your country, in your land, this is an absolute right to us. Furthermore, and I would like to conclude because, we have been very long today, there is one aspect which is key, and that is particular of our own relationship with Africa as Italians and also as Europeans. Someone who wants to have an hegemonic power like Russia, also I would say partially US, and they do this with an approach which is very aggressive because they want to prevail either politically or economically. The Europeans also, thanks to its own history and Christian value, we put men and women at the heart, the person at the heart, and that is why I think when we go to the Middle East, to Africa, we are better and more warmly welcomed because we want to cooperate. We not just to think in terms of figures or opportunities to become richer, but together we want to create development because this is our vision of the world and this is our own identity. So thank you very much, very warmly, and let's bring Europe to its natural place. Okay, so really we are asking too much to the interpreters. Let's call Antonella Sberla, Vice President of the European Parliament, and Nicola Procaccini. Then there is a buffet lunch which is offered to all and each of you. Thank you very much for your resilience, and thank you very much. I think that this meeting was very interesting. Okay, Antonella, the floor is yours.
Saremo brevi perché...
Okay, this is the last thing that comes, my speech, before the end of this meeting. I would like to thank MEP Fidanza for promoting this initiative in this meeting. And in this precise moment, we are getting closer to many important moments. This is a key moment, especially a linking moment, because this moment, I think, is historical. We've never experienced something like this, not only with the a qualified presence of many stakeholders. I think that this is an important moment. So we have heard Metsola, Meloni, two European commissioners, and all the stakeholders that are currently operating in this context, together with the Global Gateway, together with other Mediterranean initiatives. The Mattei Plan is then also a operational instrument that is available to the European Union as well as also to the African countries for this purpose. By the way, I would like to greet all the ambassadors that are present today, that are already working, that are already building their independence path. We have heard about figures, statistics, perspectives, achievements, and this is a just great activity. President Metsola has said this at the beginning. What can we do, the European Union, and in particular the European Parliament, which is the place where we are gathering today, is offering this support. I'm also speaking as a representative of the Committee for the Relations with Africa. I've met a lot of African parliamentary representatives to share what is being done in this respect, and also they have very much underlined the importance of the Italian workers. The European Parliament, on its side, has a parliamentary diplomacy role, which is very important. In Addis Ababa, the European institutions are representative. Furthermore, there are also the regional African communities that want us to be more present, which is an excellent sign. Right? Because dialogue is based on this, so it's fine to shake hands and to know that relationships are just fine, but then you also need to know that all this can be implemented, it can become concrete achievements for and by our businesses, for and thanks to the shared cooperation. So as Metsola was recalling, we don't have to talk to Africa, we have to talk with Africa. We need to find common ways to have a dialogue, to operate together, as they have already started to do. I have participated in September, and by the way, in Egypt we will have a second meeting in a few weeks. Just before the peace agreement that has been signed for the Middle East. So at that occasion, European Union, Italy was very much wanted. So I think I'm going to conclude because everything has just been said. And an important final message needs to be done. The Mattei Plan can be, within this scenario, a new guideline, like the cohesion policy, which is making, which is trying to solve the problem of economic gaps within the member states. Likewise, the Mattei Plan can be a wider cohesion play, including the right to stay, which is very important, right to stay for them, for the Africans, so that they can give them the development tools, the education tools, the knowledge tools to live and thrive in that continent within a structure of extended dialogue. And I think that what we have heard today, so the international relations in general, can offer so much. Everything that Europe is bringing forward so actively. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much, Carlo, for promoting this dialogue. And I think that out of this meeting, out of this dialogue, many important allies can spring from what we have heard, what they have launched. And of course, at the very heart we have then trust, respect, dignity. This is, of course, an excellent ground to future excellent cooperation and relations. Thank you. Okay, let's listen to Mr. Procaccini to end this meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you very much also for remaining so long after this very long and fruitful, I would say, meeting. So, of course, I'm speaking about on the behalf of my own party. So in my function, I would like to thank the Italian delegation, starting from MEP Fidanza, for organizing this meeting, this Congress. Of course, I would like to greet also my colleagues MEP, which are attending, as well as also the African ambassadors, journalists, of course, as well as also economic, social, and cultural stakeholders that have attended this morning working session. Okay, I will try to be as short as possible. The Mattei plan has been launched, has been created 2 years ago, just when the world was further sparked by very painful conflicts, and this makes the Mattei plans even more precious, because it's really a peace and cooperation initiative. So it is really a major initiative in this respect. So I'm very glad to underline that after 2 years after it has been conceived, this plan, the Mattei's plan, is even wider. It has become even wider and deeper than it had been originally conceived, because basically, the number of nations joining this initiative has increased, and also the whole European Union has been involved in the cooperation agreement. Furthermore, concrete works, achievements, concrete works have been delivered. And maybe 2 years ago, someone didn't think this would happen. No, they considered this plan only a marketing political box, and even an empty box. On the contrary, and by contrast, concrete achievements are confirming that it is working. Of course, we are at the very beginning of this. Such a wide and big plan needs, long time to unveil all its potential. But for sure, the start, the launch was fantastic, and these 2 years have been just proved to be very, very, very good. So it's not just an Italian initiative. The President Meloni, of course, had an excellent idea to launch this virtuous cycle within the Mattei's plan. So now we speak less and less of immigration, right? Because if truth to be told, right, let's say that this was the initial issue around which this Mattei plan was not considered, as full of perspectives. And so the point now is not only about immigration. The point now is rather strategic infrastructures, trade, energy, education and training, inter-exchanges, also on the cultural field. So, of course, all the initial fields have just been overcome, have been surpassed. I don't have much to add. By the way, I also promised to be short. So I only have to add, the final remarks. This morning has been particularly precious and fruitful, because now is the Mattei plans that will start working and operating and developing and unveiling all its potential. Please allow me to conclude with a quote of a Roman emperor, which was, by the way, also a good, an excellent philosopher, Mark Aurelius. And he said, one day we were born to cooperate, like, you know, hands, eyes, teeth, feet, acting one against the other, therefore, is against our own human nature. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep on, just comply with our own nature, regardless of our country of origin, because the Mattei plan represents the best of our potential. So, I wish you a fruitful cooperation. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much to the interpreters that thank on their own. And thank to the technical staff which has made this meeting possible. Thank you very much. Have a nice meal and see you soon. Bye-bye.